Welcome to Mic Drop, the podcast where relevancy is irrelevant and we don't give a shit about your feelings.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's both an honor and a pleasure to welcome the next guest to the podcast. He is a father, and I'm starting that out first because goddamn, that's important. He spent 20 years on active duty, and that's 4 years in the Marines. Not that we're going to hold that against him. He does still have some crayon residue on the corner of his mouth. 16 years in the Navy, all of which were with Naval Special Warfare as a Navy SEAL. He's done 7 deployments. That's 2 with SEAL Team 2 and then 5 with Team 6 at Gold Squadron. He has 2 Bronze Stars with V's for Valor and has earned a Purple Heart. He is the CEO of Contingent Group, which designs custom security group options for families, business, or any type of entities worldwide. And his shoulders are so goddamn wide that Michael Bay actually hired him to be Optimus Prime's stunt double in Transformers. Please welcome to the stage, Eddie Penney.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I know it's like a 2-hour plus drive without traffic getting over here. So I know you're a busy guy. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come talk to us about both your story, some shit that's gone down on deployment, and also what you have going on now, which I always like to bring something to the listener to take home with them, and I'm looking forward to getting into some personal and house and travel security type tips that you can offer that people are always interested in. And I think somebody with your type of background, who better to listen to than somebody that's been around the world as many times as you have to be able to see it and live it. So looking forward to getting into it.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah. One thing I always like to start off with a little bit of a lightning round, and just throw out some bullshit questions. What's your favorite hair care product that you like to use?
I don't know the name of it, but I know it's like and this is kind of weird, but it's like a clay. I have no idea what it's.
It's a pomade.
Whatever you want to call it.
Fucking a balm.
It works. I've tried them all.
Yeah.
So you gotta look the part.
The
appearance is very important.
You pull it off way better than I do. I don't use hair care products. I don't have any.
Or just the hat. Hat works as well too.
Yeah, that's what I have to rock all the time. As big of a guy as you are, I'm curious. I know everybody else is. What's the most amount of weight you've moved in any direction before in terms of a max lift?
I'm not really one for like max lifts. I don't go in there and be like, all right, I want to deadlift this, I want to squat this, I want to bench this. It's really, for me, it's like therapy.
Yeah.
I just got hooked on it when I was in the Marines, and it's been just.
It's not a model of Volkswagen that you.
No, it's not. But I mean, have pushed and lifted heavy things, so yeah, I enjoy it.
You're going to punt on that one?
What?
Yeah, no, it's all good. I mean, I'm kind of the same way. I know as I've gotten older and shit starts to hurt in places that I didn't really even knew should or could hurt. I don't go super heavy either. I mean,
it tears you up. Yeah, it definitely tears you up.
No, absolutely. What is the biggest misconception about you?
I always get. Just by my demeanor, like, hey, I just think you'd be a dick.
Yeah.
You just like, hey, you just look like a mean person, but I'm not. I'm like a big teddy bear.
Yeah, we have the initial misconception.
I mean, considering the career path that we've chosen, you kind of can't just go into overseas Target and just be like, hey guys, what's going on? Let's all share lollipops. It just doesn't work that way. So that's something I need to work on and kind of smile a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I hear you 100%. All right, we just took a quick informal break. If you could hear Rico barking in the background, that is one of the, we'll call it a huge benefit to running a dog kennel, is that there's always dogs coming out my ass out here, and sometimes they bark. So in one episode you may hear him snoring, sometimes you may hear him barking. That's the beauty of what I do for a living, but deal with it. All right, next question. I think I already know the answer based on what you fucking pulled up in here with, but... So motorcycle, boat, sports car, or big ass kicking truck?
Truck, of course.
All day long, right?
Yep, all day long.
You got the big beast sitting out there?
Done the motorcycle twice and probably put a total of like 2,000 miles on both bikes, and I just realized that's just not my thing. I love them. I love customizing them and making them look pretty, and then once they're all done, I'm like, the weather's this, the weather's that, and I'm just too lazy to get all to go out there and go ride.
Is it more of like chopper style, like Harley style, or
like Harleys? Yeah, like like a Fat Boy or Bro King, one of the bigger ones that you can kind of customize a little bit to your liking. So,
Yeah.
but they're fun. I mean, God, they're fun.
Yeah. I've never owned a motorcycle. I'm almost convinced I'd kill myself on one.
Yes. Yeah, that's...
And not because I'm good at riding it or fast, because I'm actually that incompetent at riding a fucking motorcycle.
A lot of us are.
Yeah, I've hardly ever done it. But favorite cereal?
Oh, man, that's a tough question because cereal's amazing.
It's like a fucking dessert.
Probably s'mores. They used to have, when I was a kid growing up, they had S'mores Crunch, but they just came back, I think, a couple of years ago with s'mores. But
Yeah.
I think that is my number one right there. It is so good. Oh, my gosh.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, maybe a close second.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch is definitely top 5.
Yeah.
Along with Fruity and Cocoa Pebbles. Just depends what mood you're in.
I know it. Do you eat cereal for breakfast ever?
Usually late night when I'm just
like the dessert.
just kind of the munchies hit. I'm like, all right, there we go. We pull out the box of cereal and with the kids and we just go crazy.
We'll get into the reason for munchies in terms of supplements here in a little bit. All right, so here's one that's probably going to be impossible to answer, but if for the rest of your life you get to own just one fucking gun, what would it be?
It would be my SIG 320.
Oh, shit.
I carry it every day.
Yeah.
So that would be, I mean, if I wanted, something bigger, obviously I couldn't carry it around with me. So the more practical choice would be my SIG.
Yeah,
But not me, hands down. Easy question.
Is that I'm not super familiar with that model. Is that a dual action as well?
No, it's a new one. It's not like the 228 or 226 that we kind of were trained up and raised up on. It's the 320. It's just, no hammer, no nothing. It's amazing gun.
Oh, shit.
I love it.
What's the mag cap on that?
17, I believe.
Oh, no shit. It's
Yeah,
like a full size.
it's nice. Yeah, it's awesome. It's on my side right now.
Yeah, we'll have to check that shit out. What is your spirit animal?
Ooh. God, what eats a lot and likes to lay down? Probably the male lion.
Panda? Fucking panda, maybe.
Maybe a panda. But they kind of like play too much, though. I kind of like just to lounge around.
Yeah, fucking male lion. I got it. let the lionesses do the hunt, and
right,
you
just kind of like sleep
and
like 20 hours of the day, and then
stand there and
get up and eat.
protect the pride. All right, so here's a question I love to ask everybody. What does your morning routine look like?
Usually, I got 2 morning routines. I have the summer because my children are with their mother during the summertime. So school year time, I usually get up about 6. Down like are we talking nutrition wise or just everything?
Yeah, really across the board, because I think one of the things that I know I'm always curious about, and I know the listeners are, is that all the people that I have on are they generally have quite a bit going on, both professionally, personally, whatever. And so one of the things I like to kind of highlight is successful people that have a lot going on for themselves. When I look at and when the listeners kind of contrast all of the different guests I've had on of what their morning routines look like, there are a lot of parallels. There's obviously some nuances and some differences, but I love to hear about it, and I think how somebody starts their fucking day says a lot about them, and I think it's good advice for a lot of people.
Yeah, first thing is I do a protein shake right away, usually with orange juice, just to get some sugars in there, and then turn on my coffee, get the kids' breakfast ready, and then
specific kind of protein, or
I can't remember the name of it. It's like a designer one. It's like, the fewer ingredients, the better. If you look on the back of protein, there's like 5,000 things.
Yeah.
Don't take it.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to, shit it out.
I feel the same way about potato chips.
Right. Oh, dude, potato chips are good.
Ruffles.
It doesn't matter what's in them.
Potatoes, oil, and salt. Yeah.
Then get the kids their stuff ready, get them off to school. Then I'll usually have another meal, usually some eggs and some oatmeal. And then I head to the gym for a couple hours. If I had to run any errands out in town, to run errands, and I come back and then I work.
Yeah. For in terms of the gym routine, are you more of a traditional back buys, chest tries, legs, day off kind of guy, or functional CrossFit type shit? Or
definitely traditional, going to the weight room more. Like Arnold was my superhero.
Yeah.
I loved him. So I bought his his encyclopedia and kind of like read that multiple times.
Yeah.
And I just enjoy it. Sometimes I'll do some cardio, I'll do some sleds, I'll do some of that kind of functional stuff. But I really just, again, it's like my therapy. Go in there and just enjoy and, kind of just get away from the world.
Yeah.
Listen to audiobooks or some music and then just be, just get lost in it. So
yeah. Do you do any type of regular combatives training, jiu-jitsu, boxing?
Used to when I was in the teams, did it a lot. And then pain started setting in, especially with the elbows and knees. Very humbling experience. We did a course over in Holland to Golden Glory, and it was 2 weeks, I believe. That's where they got a lot of good. Bas Rutten came out of there. Alistar Overeem came out of there. And I got worked by this 150-pound kid with a mullet wearing a collared shirt and Muay Thai shorts.
Yeah.
And I had a whole new respect for the game. And I mean, just this kid's been doing it for years and years. And I mean, his kicks were so powerful. I was like, okay, definitely carry firearms, like just in case, like the kid with the mullet comes up. But no, it's very humbling. Learned a lot. Since the teams, I really don't do that much. I mean, like I'll grapple once in a while with a buddy or something like that. But no, not too much. Yeah. Usually like a brawler.
Yeah.
Like I'm counting on my punches knocking you out.
Yeah. Fucking it was like the Toby Keith song, right? Not as good as
I once was. Yeah.
Good as once. Whatever.
Thank God for the Second Amendment.
Yeah, that's a no shitter. My
probably should get back into it though. Definitely. I mean, I think it's great. You got to be well rounded with the shooting, knowing what's going on, and then obviously combatives.
To me, I think it's like with anything, and that there's an element of that happy medium, and I think guys with our background and from our community, especially, have a real problem with happy mediums. You know, it's like it's either balls to the fucking wall, you're all in, and it's wide fucking open, or it's like, nah,
yeah, we're good.
I'll fucking do it some other time, And I think especially as for me, I know as I get older and tearing my tricep the way I did grappling, like I'll go back to doing it, but it'll be very calculated and measured in terms of who I roll with and how hard I go. And, cause for me, like, this is a 7 to 9 month fucking recovery. Like I can't,
sucks.
I can't afford to be hurt like that. I mean, with what I do for a living. So, you got to be more fucking careful.
Absolutely.
In terms of a travel routine, you travel a lot?
I haven't recently in the last probably 6-7 months, but usually I would do a lot of trips, mostly international trips for clients.
Does that morning routine change much when you're on the road, or you try to keep it consistent?
It changes a lot because you're kind of like whatever is going on overseas for that client, that you're kind of on their schedule, and you kind of got to get up before them, make sure things are good, vehicles are prepped, their office, whatever venue they're going to, everything's all set and ready. So yeah, it's long hours, little sleep. But in the end, keeping the clients safe and make sure everything's safe and good is, it's always worth it in the end.
Was most of that stuff like private protection or personal protection type?
Yeah, we do like the whole like spectrum of it. So like before they leave, we're doing, intelligence gathering, monitoring social media, all that stuff, natural disasters, running their office security, vehicles, transportation, getting from point A to point B, multiple routes, and then obviously protecting the client, or it could be clients. It just depends on what's going on. So every client's different. It changes all the time. Yeah. But there's a lot that goes into it, and really, it's not really the guy that's down there. It's like kind of our guys up here that are monitoring all the intelligence and all that stuff, and kind of prompting us like, hey, this is happening right now. There's a protest. Yeah. Don't go that route. So it's definitely a team effort.
Yeah. I'm curious about stuff like that because these are primarily civilians, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, do you ever have issues, and we'll get into it further down the road, it just made me think of, I'm curious, having not really done any of that other than working with some clients that want dogs, that I know some of the issues I've run into, but typically people that have that kind of profile, that type of resource in terms of finances, can be a little difficult to fucking deal with. How do you strike that balance of like, you need to do this? Well, I don't want to fucking do that. It's like, well, here's the fucking deal. Like, if you want me to protect you, you're going to fucking listen to me. Like, have you run into issues where that was a big problem?
I've heard of issues where that's a problem. We've been very blessed that our clients are very good. They're pro what we believe, like, they're pro military, all that good stuff. So we have a, I'm friends with most of them. We text each other, Merry Christmas. It's not it's professional, but it's also a friendship. Yeah. But I have had clients where, they think they know what's better when, you're kind of the resident expert. It's kind of like me going into a doctor's office and they're saying, hey, we need to do knee surgery. And I'm saying, no, it's actually my elbow that needs it. So they kind of figure why, they kind of forget why they hired you. Yeah. You are the expert. That's, it just doesn't make sense sometimes. Yeah. So you just kind of smile and wave. Yeah. Okay,
roll with it. No, I run into that sometimes. The same thing. Like most of my clients are really good people and great to deal with and everything. But occasionally there are some that have either unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, they're definitely out there. That's for sure. If there's horror stories.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So in terms of your childhood, where are you from?
Originally from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh shit.
Yep.
What was that like growing up there?
It was good. Played sports pretty much the whole time. I was always in sports. Parents were divorced. My mom raised me, but I would, did like see my dad every other weekend and like once or twice during the week. Good relationship still with both of them. I mean, really sports kind of just run my life. And then in high school, I started playing football probably 5th or 6th grade. Then I got to high school and just like getting around all these guys because I was a late bloomer.
Yeah.
I told my dad, I'm like, man, I don't think I can play football. Like these guys are huge.
Yeah.
So I quit football my freshman year because I was so small. And I was going to be sitting on the bench anyway. So I had a good buddy. He's like, hey, why don't you try the swim team? I'm like, I'm not going to swim. I'm good. I can swim. So I joined the swim team did it for all the way up until my senior year. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So, it helped out with my career path, obviously.
Yeah, that's fun. I mean, I swam too. Kind of a similar thing. Like I played football. I played all sports growing up. And up until about 6th, 7th grade, I was on par with everybody else. Then I just stopped fucking growing.
Yeah.
Until my junior year. And so the one thing, I swam from the time I was 5, but like at that time I was like, well, I guess I'll be fucking swimming from now on. Cause I was 5'4", 105 pounds as a sophomore in high school, I was getting treated like a fucking schoolgirl, literally.
I know the feeling well.
Yeah, but that's some funny shit.
It's just not fair.
Yeah. It sucks. But
maybe that's why I'm addicted to the weight room. I'm like, I'll show you.
Yeah. No shit. I didn't start putting real weight on until after I was fucking 30, honestly. But not that it was fake weight before. Anyway, so in terms of the parents and siblings, the family dynamic, you said your parents were they divorced the whole time? Or
I want to say I was probably like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
I had no siblings. I did have a cat though.
Yeah.
And I tortured the heck out of that poor cat.
All right. So tell me about torturing pussy as a young man.
Yeah.
And you still do to this day, don't you?
Right. No, that was like, I just never really had brothers and sisters. So I never really had that family dynamic. It was always, people say, oh, you're an only child. It's all about you. But it's like, okay, sorry. Is that my fault?
Yeah.
Like, my parents didn't have other siblings. So I don't really have that. I wish I did, just to like more families, nieces and nephews, all that good stuff. But that's just wasn't in the plan. Did
them separating have a profound impact, or was it?
I don't think so. As I'm getting older, I realize that maybe I do have some issues with that. But growing up, I didn't find it to be weird. A lot of teen guys that come from divorced families raised by their mother. It's quite a big percentage, if I'm not mistaken, like 60 or 70%. It's kind of weird. So so no siblings. Did in the sports that you played, did you find camaraderie, like the camaraderie and the relationships? What other sports? It was football and swimming, but were there football, swimming? I did baseball, did basketball for a year or two. I sucked at that. Soccer, of course, that was more in the younger years. Got into rock climbing for a little bit. I'd say my biggest one obviously is like baseball, football, swimming. Those are the big 3 that I did. Never any hockey or anything like that. And
so as you went through high school, did you focus more on swimming?
Absolutely. It was just swimming. It was a year-round sport. I swam for the Y. My coach was a huge inspiration for me. Amazing man. He passed away beginning of my senior year, and when he passed away, I kind of quit. I shouldn't have quit, but I did quit. Yeah. That was probably I think one of my main mistakes is like quitting. Like you just don't do that.
Yeah.
Like obviously we know that from our training that we've done that you don't quit, but I quit. My motivation was gone. I was inspired by him, and I just felt like a big piece of my heart was kind of ripped out at that time of my life.
That was during your senior year?
Before senior year started.
Okay.
He passed away right before there. Larry Lyons, really good guy.
So you didn't swim your senior year?
I did not swim my senior year.
Damn. In terms of success swimming, did you have any, what was your event?
I did distance freestyle and backstroke, and I made it to districts, never to state, because I only swam 3 years. There were some guys, definitely using performing performance enhancing drugs. So they definitely took the titles.
You had fucking dudes juicing in high school.
Oh my God. They had to be, because they were ginormous. It was like, you are perfectly chiseled. Like, how do I do that? They're like, oh, that's just the way that school is. Like, I don't think so. I think they're injecting something.
Yeah. It's fucking testosterone with their Wheaties.
Yeah.
God damn, that's fucking nuts.
Or some Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Yeah.
Just eat a bunch of that.
Yeah. Oh, Christ. Were there any big events other than, it sounds like your coach passing in high school, that were significant or impactful that either drove you to serve or take the certain path that you did?
My dad, when I was with my dad on the weekends, we would always watch, the Sylvester Stallone movies, Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, RoboCop, like all those movies. So I was like filled with that. I was like, I want to be the big guy. I want to go kill bad guys, not really understanding what all that meant. So really, like the military for me, there was a time frame where I was like, I think I read The Client and The Firm from John Grisham. I was like, I want to be a lawyer. And then I think there was like a time like, I'll be a doctor. But then it kept always going back to the
you look
military.
like a lawyer and a doctor.
Yeah, right. I would not fit in there. Could not sit behind a desk. But no, I just always wanted to do that, and I just I loved it. Even when I was a kid, I would put on cami paint, put on camouflage, and I'd go like hide and run around the neighborhood. I think we could call that peeping Tom now. So, but back then it was actually legit. I was just like, I thought I was training myself, something I'd seen. And then obviously the movie Navy SEALs. Like that's a recruiting piece in itself. So.
So during that time, did you, in terms of the relationship with your dad, did you guys shoot and hunt and that kind of shit?
No, I did hunting with my uncle, like squirrel hunting a couple times. Never really did any hunting whatsoever. Really, the first time I really shot was when I went to basic in the Marine Corps down in Parris Island. So that was the first time. Minus BB guns, but not real shooting. No,
I was very similar that way. Like I was hyper focused on sports, as was my dad. He wasn't a big shooter or hunter. He had a few guns and took a shooting a couple of times, but same thing. Like a lot of these guys, there's an element of a little bit of being jealous of like guys that their dads had them in fucking on hunting trips at fucking 8 years old and whatever, and some of the field craft that they brought to the Navy, was light years ahead of guys like us. But
that's why you watch movies, because if you watch them, you learn it all, like in 2 hours.
Yeah, it's fucking Reader's Digest version.
Done.
So joining the Marines first, what was there a specific highlight or whether it's an event or an influence, a person that really drove you to join?
It's kind of funny, is I always wanted to be a SEAL. Like that was the number one thing. And then I had a buddy that I swam with that was a year ahead of me. So when he graduated, he joined the Marine Corps and he went to Parris Island, and I went down to his graduation. And, for the graduation, you go down like a day before, you get to see like the obstacle course and see people training and marching. And I was like, yeah, I need to be a Marine. I want to be a Marine. I fell in love with it like instantly.
Yeah.
So that was my choice for the Marines. And once I was in, I was like, okay, well, it just wasn't, I wanted more. Like I wanted to go overseas. I wanted to fight. I wanted to be in combat. Like I really wanted it. Yeah. And of course you want it until you really like experience it. And you're like, wait a second, these guys are shooting back. This isn't the same thing. Yeah. This isn't what the movie showed me, because he was like smiling and had all these cool one-liners. Yeah. That was the reason why I went to the Marine Corps. Right there was a good friend of mine.
Yeah. Did you? Was it just infantry or what? Did you?
Yeah, I was 0311 infantry. Did 4 years there. I tried. They used to do a crossover at 3 years. You could switch over to and try SEALs, but I had to be completely out. I even tried. I had 190 days on my terminal. I was like, hey, can I just use my terminal, go straight over to the Navy, get this process started, like take my days. I don't need money. I wanted to go to BUD/S. So I had to get out. I was out for 1 day because I have to, check your urine, make sure you're not doing any drugs. And then after that, I went to Chicago to Transition Processing Unit. I was there for 3 months. At that time, there wasn't a SEAL rating, so I had to do Gunner's Mate A school up in Chicago, which was 6 months, I believe. And then I went to BUD/S.
What year did you graduate?
Oh, God, 2002, I graduated BUD/S.
Okay, so what year did you graduate high school?
96.
Okay, so shit, we're the same age. So you joined the Marines right out of high school?
17 years old. Mom and dad had to sign for me. 18th birthday was in boot camp.
Yeah, that's great shit.
Don't tell anybody.
Oh, that's fucking awesome. Now, when you were in the Marines, I mean, did you not know about Force Recon, or did did that ever cross your mind to just stay in and go that route?
I did. Like I'm a big thing of, especially now, like, certain things that we were talking earlier about business a little bit, like certain things happen for a reason. I wanted to be a Marine sniper because I read all the, Carlos Hathcock books, and I really wanted to be a sniper, a Marine sniper, because I have a great school. I just heard all these great things. Of course, you hear how great it is once you're in the Marines, like, oh, it's the best, it's the best, it's the best. Then you get to the SEALs, like, oh, this is the best, this is the best. But, I was a young kid, 18, 19, you don't know anything. Like, I didn't know anything, but I really wanted to be a Marine sniper. But to be a Marine sniper, you have a marksman, sharpshooter, and rifle expert that you have to do on the gun range. So I was sharpshooter, and I missed it by 1 point. So I went to my my platoon sergeant. I'm like, hey, can I please go back to the range? Because they won't accept you into sniper school unless you're an expert. Yeah. And I went 2 more times, and both times I missed it by 1 point.
Oh, shit.
I was never a rifle expert. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, and I look back now, I'm like, if I would have made that, I probably would have stayed in the Marines. Like, who knows what my route would have looked like. Yeah. So now, I'm so glad I missed those. I really feel it's like kind of God saying, hey, this isn't my plan. Yeah. That this isn't my plan for you at all. So, and then when I went to the SEALs, it's like shooting clicked, training clicked. Obviously, you got better optics, and like you can do whatever the heck you want. Like, hey, here it is. Yeah. And they're more about you. Like, hey, let's train you. It's not like, all right, we're going to train 200 people together. It's like, hey, we're going to train you 6.
Yeah. It's not the lowest common denominator.
Right. So, yeah, that was the dream though. Like, Marine sniper, let's go shoot some guys. That's what I want. That's what I want.
Were you aware of Force Recon while you were in?
I was, but I was also aware that they weren't very well funded. Yeah. And
especially at that time, like 2000.
Yes, I don't think they were part of MARSOC or excuse me, SOCOM, and I think they became part of SOCOM literally a couple months after I left the Marines. Yeah. But I didn't care. I was like, all right, focus, SEALs. That's it. Yeah. That's all I want to do.
And so with that transferring over, obviously, I know with Marines they don't have to go. You didn't have to go through Navy boot camp, right?
I did not. Yeah. No.
And then so what can you walk us through that process of like you're out for a day and then you go through the TPU unit. And then it's, gunner's mate. Like, what was that? I can only imagine the transition, having gone through Navy boot camp, having worked with enough Marines. Like, did you about lose your fucking mind dealing with?
Yeah. So, like, for TPU, like, you go straight over there. And there was other Marines there that were my age that were in infantry. A lot of good dudes. There was actually, it's kind of funny, there was 2 guys. No, actually, those in Buds. We'll get to that later. Your TPU days were just, like, literally waiting on paperwork. So we would go work out, we'd go have lunch, we'd come back, take a nap, or go work out again.
Sounds like a SEAL deployment.
It was like it was like
9/11.
It was like I mean, it was really just like, okay. Then they would try to give you some they would give you like basic, like try to learn. I think anchors away. Still don't know that. You just like, it's like, dude, I want to be a SEAL. I want to go to combat. I don't care about these. Like, I don't care how to fold my shirt. Yeah. But did not have to go to the boot camp, the Navy boot camp. Thank God. So. Yeah. I mean, it was just like reading. I did a lot of reading, did a lot of working out. And then they had I think it was called a dive motivator, I think is what the program was called. Yeah. Every morning you would get up, and if you want to do the SEAL thing at a certain point, you go running with them, and they beat the crap out of you for a little bit up in Chicago, which is kind of cold sometimes. Oh, yeah. And you get a little taste of it, and you're like, okay, I got this. This is cool. Yeah. But little did you know what was waiting on the West Coast for you. Yeah, no shit.
Well, so you go through Gunner's Mate A school, and then you go from that straight to Buds, right?
Straight to Buds.
What class was that?
237.
237.
Yep.
What was your experience? I always like to ask team guys, your perception of what it was going to be like, especially with 4 years of military. Because did you do any deployments in the Marines?
I did no deployments. Oh, shit. 0 deployments. I was stuck in Quantico, Virginia, and it's kind of like. My time there, my first year in Quantico, after I get out of, because I even told when they told me my orders, I'm like, I'm infantry, I should be going to a deployable unit. Like, no, you're going to go train officers. I'm like, how am I going to train officers when I don't even know what the hell I'm doing? Like, I'm, you know what I mean? Like, that makes 0 sense. Like, no, you're just going to be a shooting dummy pretty much and play paintball and all that stuff. Yeah. But the first year I was there, I was in the field, like in the woods, over 300 days.
Jesus.
Talk about learning fieldcraft. Yeah. Like navigate. I mean, it was a crappy experience. It was also an awesome experience at the same time. So
I can only imagine that benefited you going to Buds and being in the SEAL teams.
Absolutely. Buds for me, honestly, I mean, there were times that it sucked, but having a little bit of maturity behind my belt and knowing what it was, knowing it was a game. I mean, hearing guys saying, I didn't know the water was going to be that cold. Like, do your research.
Yeah,
I didn't know we were going to, like, guys like, oh, I've been training to, to sleep deprive myself. Like, that is not possible. You're going to be tired. So I really did not, I made it through Buds the first try, never failed an event at all. I mean, I enjoyed Buds. I mean, it sucked, but the camaraderie, like we talked about the teamwork thing, I just feed off of that. Like the drill instructor's like, oh, we're going to beat you down. Like, I feed off of that. Like, try to break me down. Let's see what happens. Let's go.
To me, I find myself, especially as I get older, and I'm sure some of it is glossed over with rose memory glasses in terms of what Buds was like, but I find myself reminiscing and looking very fondly on some of the times that, while agreed, like, it was just getting throttled in the fucking nuts. But, the relationships and brotherhood and bond that you form with these guys, and just the stupid shit that you guys do together, it's and all priceless. That. Like, I miss that. I miss that about the SEAL teams. There's nothing that I've come across, even with doing, you have a line of work that's, related and as do I, even with that, like, even getting in a bite suit, whatever, like, it's just not the same, you know, but they say misery loves company. When you get your ass kicked together, man, there's just something that happens right there. And it's amazing. Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, so you get ready to graduate Buds. Did you want to go to the East Coast to Team 2? I did. So you requested to? I asked for, actually, I got my first choice. I asked for Team 2, Team 8, and Team 4, I believe. And back then it was like based off regions. And really, because my ultimate goal was to get to development group. That's what I want to do. And I've heard like the influence is better there, because if guys get kicked out or they want to take a break, they go to the regular teams and you can kind of learn from them. So that was the reason why I chose that. And I also thought San Diego, I was like, knowing myself and my addictive personality, I can just see me partying way too much. And I did not want that. So I made the command decision. East Coast it is. So I mean, there's certainly a lot of truth to that. I know my requests, I did 2, 8, and 3, and I ended up getting 3. But for the same reasons, like, I think going through Buds, a lot of the instructors always kind of hammer, like, East Coast is harder than the West Coast, and it's closer to Dam Neck, and whatever, but it's funny hearing different guys' take on their time, what coast they spent on and why and all that. But what was the couple of deployments that you did at Team 2 like? I mean, because that was post 9/11. It was, yes. Yeah, actually 9/11 happened when I was in second phase of Buds. Yeah. And we were all like, hey, are we going to get pushed through this training quicker? Do they need us? Like, we're just like, you're graduating today. Like, oh, we're good. Here, we take this CLEP test. You're done. So one thing on that, I mean, what I would love to get your impression and take on what that was like being in SEAL training post-Hell Week when 9/11 happens. I had another team guy on the podcast yesterday, as a matter of fact, and he was in boot camp when 9/11 happened. But, being considerably more hyper-focused on going into the SEAL teams, especially for those that aren't aware, like, once you make it through Hell Week, it's not a guarantee that you're going to graduate, but it's pretty rare that people don't. It happens, but, it's almost... you're anticipating being a SEAL. Of course. By the time you get into second phase, like, you're pretty goal oriented that way. So what was there an impact in your mind in terms of, like, holy shit, now it's real? Not that it wasn't before, but can you walk us through the mentality you had then? Yeah, I remember we were at the chow hall, or what are the Navy calls it, the galley, I think. Yeah. I get confused between both services. The cafeteria, I think, is the proper word for it now. And I was getting my tray and I was setting it down, and everyone's just kind of like stopping, and everyone's just like, because they have the TV screens in there. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? And we start talking about it, and, like, we kind of find out what's going on. And one of our Buds instructors, his wife was a flight attendant who was actually in that area. So he kind of got the information on it. And I just remember it was kind of like a mindset change. Like, yeah, we want to go do something, but there really wasn't stuff going on. Like, now you hear like, oh, we did this one op. All right, that's awesome. And it's just like a mindset, like, hey, this is real now. And it kind of changed your training. Instead of, hey, I need to push this through to get my trident. Now it's like, I need to push this through to stay alive, keep my buddies alive, be alive for my family when I come home. Yeah. So there was a switch. Absolutely. It made things more real. Did you notice that paradigm shift class wide? Like, was there kind of
I don't think so. You're kind of like, you're kind of like, I need to make this through here. You want your boat crew to do great, but in the end, you're like, okay, like I can't get injured. I don't want to do this. I got to do the right things. I got to make these times. There was definitely a lot of talk about it, but I guess not really knowing what it was before either. I guess I was kind of, how you do something for a while, your vision kind of opens up a little bit instead of just looking through the toilet paper roll.
Yeah.
We start to see 360. I really couldn't tell, but there was definitely a lot of talk like, hey, we're going to be like, wow, like we're going to be busy.
Shit's about to get real.
It is about to get real. And it did.
Yeah, that's no shit. Yeah, for a long time, shit still is.
For the whole career.
So you go to Team 2. Can you give us a kind of a synopsis on what that experience was like?
Going to Team 2, I was definitely nervous. You're like, oh, I got it, because we were the first or second class where they actually gave you your Trident after SQT. So you do, you do your buds. You go do basic training down in Fort Benning. You come back, you do SQT. There was no Halo, Hey-Ho, free fall training then. You would get that in the teams. And you're nervous, like, oh, there's going to be all these, and I was like, I started hitting the weight room hard again. I think when I graduated, I was 193. I left SQT, I was like 225.
Jesus Christ.
So like I go check in, like I'm going to get stomped. And I'm like looking around, I'm like, all right, you're going to get stomped. So, me, like I kind of back then and still sometimes I like to run my mouth, just kind of like, hey, I'll show you, like I'll show you what I got. Because I like competition. I love it. But I checked in. It was awesome. And I was so fortunate that my task unit chief was a guy from Development Group.
Yeah.
He was actually from Gold.
Yeah.
And he was there. I did 2 platoons with him and another guy that was a breacher at Gold as well. They had got into some trouble. Nothing crazy. When they had to do a year in the regular teams. But the knowledge and the wisdom that they brought to us was insane. That really was a marker. And those guys are mentors to me. I still reach out to them. They're great guys. One of them actually went on to be the Command Master Chief at Team 6.
Oh, sure.
So we actually when I went to Green Team, he went back to Gold. And then after Green Team, I got selected to go, obviously, to Gold Squadron. I think it was a lot because of him.
Yeah.
So it was good. I was with him the whole time. It was amazing.
That's fucking great shit.
So, but yeah, you're going to the teams and like learning because you think you know what you're doing. Oh, I'm a SEAL now. I got to try them. But then you're like, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
You don't know anything.
Yeah. The first couple of fucking platoon trips, you're like, holy shit. Like I have no idea what the fuck's going on.
Exactly. But obviously, 4 years in the Marines, knowing about weapon systems, and that obviously helped a lot. But still, your guys that have, back then. You got guys that have 4, 5, 6 platoons. That's a lot of training.
Yeah.
That is a lot of training under your belt. And they're just kind of looking, God knows what they're looking at you like, all right, you're just like a little freshman. You don't know anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
I know it.
But everyone's good about like teaching you like, hey, like they weren't jerks. Like, hey, here, you can do this better by this way. There was always that. So that was good.
Was your time at Team 2 in terms of the deployments and just the whole experience there? What types of deployments did you do there?
Deployment number 1, we were kind of jerked around. I'm sure you probably were doing that. You're going to Germany. Okay, now you're going to the Philippines. It's like, what? That's a West Coast duty? Or now you're going to Africa. Yeah. Now you're going to Iraq. Okay, then it's Afghanistan. And then it ended being Iraq. So we were going up to Mosul. We did 2 months of Mosul, kicking indoors, doing direct action. It was awesome. Had our vehicles. We had an interrogation center to, when we brought back our detainees to try to get, follow-on ops. And then after 2 months, we're like, this is the best deployment ever. The whole PSD, the personal security for the new interim Iraqi government kicked off. So I still know the story how the SEALs got volunteered. So we packed all our stuff and there was just all these SEALs came in. And our platoon actually had the Prime Minister Alawi.
Oh God!
A great guy. He was actually, I don't know if a lot of people don't know the story, but Hussein sent his henchmen to go kill him in Britain.
No shit.
And they took a hatchet to him. He's got scars all over his face, his hands. They didn't kill him. Like his wife and him were in bed, and they just took a hatchet to him, tried to kill him. They didn't kill him.
Jesus.
But now he's the Prime Minister.
God damn.
So it was crazy. Like roadside bombs, learned a lot about security. So taking that experience, like the worst case scenario into Contingent Group, the company that I have that we have now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely pays
a
off.
direct fucking transfer.
Completely.
So, I mean, what were there times where while you're protecting him, I mean, did you guys get hit?
We had close encounters. We had like random fire. I think we had 1 or 2 roadside bombs or that were in the vicinity, rockets that were directed at his office, but nothing like, hey, we're in the shit right now.
Yeah.
There was none of that. Which is good. That means you're doing your security well. So,
from a planning standpoint.
Exactly. So no, nothing crazy.
Yeah. Was that experience, I mean, cause we did, some of that, but never real. Like, we trained some of it in Kuwait and a few other places, like in the event that we would get stuck doing it.
Right.
I say stuck, but,
you could say stuck.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to kick indoors.
Yeah, I mean, comparing it to fucking DAs for sure, it's getting stuck. But I guess, I'm curious, from the amount of experience you had doing it, was there, a perception of this is what it's going to be like, and then this is now what it is? Because I know for me, and maybe it was the same for you, but like I did a full deployment, workup and deployment pre 9/11. And a shit ton of training before we ever did any real world stuff. I mean, my first deployment was in the Colgat bomb, and we did some real world stuff there, but by comparison to what's going on now and since then, not really. But my point is that I know all of the years and thousands of hours we had training is that like that first couple of real world missions we did, like I would say it almost went out the fucking window. Like things were so fucking different than what I was expecting and how we had trained. Was it that same way with the PSD?
I can remember my first op because I was a breacher at the time. I was assistant breacher. I didn't breach it, but I was the first guy in the door because I was a bigger dude. And I'll never forget it. There was a dude in white man jammies, and we go in to do a room clearance, and it's just like it's because it's the first one for all of us for the most part. And there's a brief second of, like deer in the headlights, like what's going on. And I remember dropping my rifle and going up to the guy with the man jammies and picking him up and just slamming it down. He didn't have a weapon on him, and just like pretty much choke slammed him. Went down, and then the train, it kind of like picked up like, okay, we trained for this. And then we were gone. Yeah. And then after that, it was just like, flowing water. So, but yes, I'll never forget that, seeing that guy's little beady eyes and my night vision. Yeah. And then just dropping the weapon because he had nothing on him and just, taking him down. That was my first stop. It's ingrained in my memory.
Yeah. In terms of the PSD stuff, was it a similar thing? Like when you were doing it for real, it was different, or was it pretty?
A lot of us were depressed to do that job after kicking in doors, and you're breaching doors, and you're taking it to the enemy where you're resting them or taking them down because there's a satisfying feeling with that. PSD is a little bit different. You're kind of waiting to be hit. Yeah. It's a totally different, totally switches on you.
Reactive and stuff.
Yeah. Proactive. You're just waiting for it, and you got to like try to take the right countermeasures for that. So it was a big switch. It wasn't as fun, but in the grand scheme of things, obviously it was a very important thing. We're in establishing a government. Yeah. Like people don't realize that. They're like, oh, you just go over there and you kick down doors and you kill people. But there's a big piece. Like we're putting in a new government. That doesn't happen overnight. That's a big job, especially when a lot of people are corrupt and you don't know who they are.
Yeah. And a whole shitload of people are trying to kill you. Half of which are foreign fighters.
Random mortars. Here we go.
Yeah. So in terms of the PSD stuff, is there one or two things or, a couple of things that stand out as being things that once you did it for real world and doing what you do now that really stick out as like textbook principle lessons learned that you bring to what you do now?
I guess what is good that I can bring to Contingent Group, and again, I don't like to say I because it's a team definitely that runs that company, is that I believe that I saw worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, this can happen. Yeah. This is what you need to do if this happens. A roadside bomb goes off and there's bodies everywhere and you got your client and you can't get anywhere. Like, what do you do? Yeah. So like the contingency piece, Contingent Group. Yeah. We're big on contingencies. Like we have multiple ways to do whatever we're going to do. That we pride ourselves on that. Because we want to be caught with our pants down, like period. And that happens in combat or in a real world situation that we see, like active shooters, all that stuff. But seeing, I guess, worst case scenario and what could happen in a combat war torn area versus, in Mexico or Nigeria. It can be kind of the same, but it's also like, okay, I need this or I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to put my guys or my client in, harm's way.
Yeah.
So it was very good to see that.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it sounds like there's a realistic expectations piece that has to be there that I think a lot of people either lack or don't realize that initial assessment is key,
And you can see it in the executive protection world, not to like rip on people, but you can kind of tell guys that have been there, done that versus the guys that like, hey, I kind of like this. This is cool to wear an earpiece, which we don't do. Like we're not like, a lot of times you don't even know we're there.
Yeah.
So there's that, and the security world kind of has a bad name because of that, because you got, one or two guys that can just ruin it. Just like, you got a SEAL that does something retarded, the whole, SEALs must be horrible, right? Or a teacher. They had sex with an underage student. Every teacher's bad. I mean, there's always that 10% of badness, and no matter what environment you're in.
Yeah, you get the same thing, especially in the personal protection dog world. Like there's some fly-by-night shitbirds out there that have these dogs that have absolutely no business being in that.
They all get exposed in time. They all get exposed.
Yeah, but all right. So that was your first deployment at Team 2.
Yep.
How was the second one by comparison?
Second deployment. I really wanted to go to Afghanistan really bad, so that's when we kind of merged teams, and they kind of broke up because they needed more people overseas because of the, Afghanistan and Iraq was going on. So I joined another task unit, and I did 2 months in Afghanistan, which was fun. And that's where I got my first, I guess you would say, firefight. I mean, if that's what you want to call it, they were shooting at us. I shot back with a 240 from a turret. Didn't hit anything, a lot of trees, because I didn't know where it was coming from. Yeah. But it was a good puckering feeling that I'll never forget.
Yeah.
So did that for 2 months, did a couple good ops. It was good to see the terrain and kind of the people and the towns, and learned a lot. And then went back to Iraq, to the Green Zone in Baghdad for more PSD work. And it was called then the mentorship. We were kind of training other people to kind of take over.
Yeah.
So we would go do that. We would do a lot of training and a lot of weightlifting. So it was good.
Yeah. Sleep, eat, and lift.
Good gym. Yeah. But I mean, so yeah, you do that. It was kind of more like a FID mission almost.
Yeah.
Like, hey, let's teach these guys how to do it. And then of course we had to do some of the stuff.
Yeah.
And we would always try. That was when Fallujah was really bad. Because we had guys kind of spread out everywhere. And then Sadr City, I don't know if you remember that. There was like a 3-day, like heyday, like all guns out. We had a couple of our snipers go do that. So there was little things that popped up, like go do some cool stuff. We did a lot of sniper work, overwatching for guys planting bombs.
Yeah.
So we stayed busy. We try to stay busy. We weren't like, if you weren't training, this other entity, then you could go out, take over a certain position and just watch. And if guys are up to bad things, you would take them out.
This was what, 05, 06?
That would have been 05, yes.
Yeah. I'm curious. I know, my experience platoon to platoon was there wasn't a big change, or we didn't have a huge influx. Was the 2 platoons that you did at Team 2, was it mostly the same guys in both of them, or was there a big...
Yeah, there's mostly the same guys, yeah. There was a couple that left to go to another platoon or went over to development group, or then you get a couple new guys, obviously.
Yeah.
But no, it was mostly the same guys.
And did you find yourself working with West Coast teams? Like, was there a lot of, inter team work?
I mean, we would do what we called them our sniper ops. They would do like a certain section or a certain area of the city, and we would do other ones. We would do changeovers with them for the PSD work. Yeah. But never really like, hey, you're going to go with guy from Team 3 or Team 1. I think it was Team 1 that we were with overseas, but it was none of that. I mean, we would hang out, see each other at the gym.
Yeah.
After hours, go hang out.
I get a spot.
Like, a spot. Yeah. The gym always comes into it somehow. Yeah, it's like, it's literally like massages. It's therapy.
What are we in Thailand?
I haven't been.
Yeah.
There's probably a reason for that.
Yeah. Oh shit. You'd probably still be there.
You probably would be.
So that experience in Iraq, doing Overwatches, things like that, is there a story you could share that was kind of a hairy moment in terms of doing sniper Overwatch or getting into a gunfight or things of that nature?
We really we didn't have any engagements doing the sniper thing. I think the biggest takeaway for that is because what we would do is we would take over people's houses. So you'd have to clear the house, and they would offer you food. And there's plenty of stories where they would drug the food, And, I think it happened to a couple Marine elements actually. And, they find them and they got, bullets in the back of their head. Jesus. They would just be drugged by the people that they're taking over. So,
God damn.
But I am a fatty and I was guilty of eating one time. Hey, I'm going to eat this, but you don't. So just if I go down, just protect me. Because food's amazing.
What was the food? You remember?
Whatever they say. It was the rice with the raisins and I think it's grapes and they got the chicken in the middle. There's a name for the dish, but it's a big bowl. It was phenomenal. Grab. It was amazing. Yeah. But no, I think just taking it over and seeing how they live, how they act towards us, how there was that reaction.
Yeah.
Think about this. You're going into someone's house hey, you're not going to work today.
Yeah.
I need to support my family. Yeah. So I'm going to freaking jack you up. You are not leaving this house. That's just learning that piece. Not that we were doing it intentionally to be a jerk to your family, but we're trying to save lives. That's really what it comes down to. It could be their lives. It could be, obviously it comes down to Allied Forces lives, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's like World War II right there.
No, I know.
Allied Forces, American lives,
Axis.
whatever. Who else we got?
Axis and Allies. All right. So you finish up at Team 2. Now you decide to screen and go to development group, aka Team 6. Can you walk us through that process as much as you can? I know.
That's a weird process right there. So I actually screened before that second deployment, or got approval. And when I was in Afghanistan, there was a guy that was actually on Roberts Ridge, near Roberts. He was one of the snipers. He was on deployment with me in Afghanistan. He's like, "Hey, you going to a green team?" I was like, "Yeah, I hope so. I'm waiting." So we go to do the mentorship in Iraq together. And I think it was probably green team was starting the first screening because the first day is your screening test. We were about 1 week about to leave country, and then green team was about to start 3 weeks later. Well, I saw him, and he's like, "Hey, are you going to the green team?" I'm like, "No, I'm going to the one in 6 months." He's like, "What?" So I was like, "Yeah, I guess I got to go to TRADET, do some training for 6 months, and then I'll do the next green team." He's
and real quick for those listening, the green team is the selection and tryout 6 month plus process to go to Team 6.
It's like buds on steroids.
Yeah. So just as a reference.
So he comes back a day later. He's like, "Hey, you're going to the next green team." I was like, "What?" I was like, "Dude, I'm not in running shape. I have been jacking steel like no one's business. I was probably about 230. Just unable to move." And he goes, "I got you in." He's like, "I made a call. You're good to go." I was like, "Well, what do you say?" "No, I can't do it." I'm like, "Okay, Roger that. I'm doing it." So when I got home, I just started running.
Yeah.
I would run. I was running every day. I would just because you had to do a 3 mile and I think it's 3. Oh no, is it 4 miles? No, it's 3 miles. 3 miles in 22 minutes, I believe. So, for a bigger dude, that's pretty fast. And especially if you're not, used to training like that. So I would run every day, try to cut some weight, did screened, and then, got in green team. And then, green team was amazing. It was a butt kicker, but fortunately for me, having the 2 mentors that I had were CQB, close quarters battle, clearing rooms, savvy guys. Just teaching me all the tricks like that. That was my easy spot. Yeah. That is where I shined.
Do you remember how many guys you started with versus how many finished?
I do not, but you definitely lose a lot of guys doing those initial weeks doing CQB.
Yeah. I think that's something that surprises a lot of people. For those listening, the green team composition is all SEALs. And they're all SEALs that have been SEALs for at least a few years. Some of them longer than others, but have a deployment or generally multiple deployments under their belt. Pass a screening test, show up to try out for Team 6 basically, and then even in that class, it's not uncommon to lose half the fucking class, right?
Yeah. Guys that were your mentors are getting dropped out. You're like, whoa, what's going on here? It's pretty surreal.
Yeah, so to make it through all of that, what was that experience like once you made it through?
It was very humbling. I was just the cadre, the instructors that were there. Just the way they would teach and the way they move and the way they operate. It was like a different a lot of experience. I mean, just doing house run after house run after house run after, jump after jump after jump or dive after whatever it is. I mean, they're just, because it's all operational. So it's not like, hey, we're going to go get you wet and sandy and beat the crap out of you with push-ups. It's like, hey, we're taking you up to 24,000 feet and we're putting you O2 and we're doing a real world mission scenario. You're jumping in, you're hitting this op, and then you're extracting by helo over here. So it was real world stuff that you were training for. I soaked it in. I loved it. It was awesome. It was everything I wanted. It was more than what I wanted. The adrenaline rush, the guys, it was a blast.
Yeah. Were there any injuries, setbacks, failures, anything during?
No, the only thing there was a lot of running. So my knees, being a heavier guy, obviously was always a problem. I do remember here. This is a crazy story, and this still blows my mind. We were out in Arizona, outside of Tucson, doing our jump trips, and you have to do certain jumps, and you have to hit on the X, and within a certain amount of feet, just to like say, okay, yeah, he can land and opens properly. I came down with strep throat, like on one of the final jumps, and I was like, hey, I'm like better. I think I was a 102, 103. Hallucinating pretty much. And one of the instructors come in, and I'll never forget this. He's like, we need you to do this jump. I was like, I am freaking about to die. Like, you've had strep throat. Like, it sucks. Like, you're out. I was like, okay. Like, it's like you do it or you don't do it. It's like, there's like, okay, do you want to get rolled to the next class and you just did all this and you have to redo it? Like, that's more stuff on your body and something you can get injured on the next class. So I rolled out of bed. I went to my buddies. I'm like, hey man, I need you to dress me. Like, got dressed, got my chute on, and I remember feeling like I don't care if I die. I was so sick.
Some dangerous complacency.
Went in there, did the jump, passed it, dropped off my stuff, went right back to my bed. Like literally dropped my chute, did not pack it because I knew I was sick. Yeah. Went right back. They're like, all right, we'll see you tomorrow morning. And thank God I just got pumped full of drugs, IVs, and I was good to go. Somewhat good to go the next day. But
were there did you hallucinate at all on the jump? Like were you seeing mermaids flying around?
No, not that fortunate. I just remember style. Like I don't care. I was just remember like I just want to fall out of this plane and get this over with. Fuck. But that was probably the most memorable moment of like I was kind of like crap. I hope this goes well.
Yeah. Oh shit. So I'm always curious to get guys with that experience take. So you've finished Green Team. You've done multiple deployments in the regular SEAL teams. Now you're jumping into fucking the illustrious SEAL Team 6. Like, what is that check-in like? And the getting the gear and the budget and the training. Like, man, can you walk us through that as best you can.
It was. They do a thing where you kind of like initiation, where you kind of like got to give a little quote and kind of like just tell about yourself, and they kind of make fun of you a little bit.
Tell you to shut the fuck up.
Pretty much, yeah. My name is shut the fuck up. Never gets old. Yeah. And you get your patches, and I remember just grabbing those patches and just be like, man, like this means a lot to me. It was awesome. It was very humbling. But at the same time, your head kind of swells a little bit. You're like, oh, dude, I'm like, because they're like, oh, you're the best of the best. You're the tip of the spear. But it really, you have a lot of assets. You got a lot of funding, and that kind of what gives you that extra edge. Not to say that the guys aren't well trained at all, but it kind of goes to your head a little bit. I mean, doing the deployments, which I'm sure we're going to get into, and you realize what you're doing. You're doing, when I was a kid watching Rambo and freaking Commando with Arnold, you're doing that stuff. Like it was like, crap, I'm here. Yeah. Like I'm finally
This is what I actually signed up for.
This is what I signed up for. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it was awesome. Yeah. It was the most prideful feeling. And then you're doing it for the greatest country in the world. Yeah. This country's amazing. Like you're doing it for that. That's really what it comes down to, is you're doing it for this country. And that's everything. Yeah.
Was there anything upon initial check-in that surprised you about the unit that you either weren't expecting or thought would be totally different?
No. I mean, guys were pretty cool. Like they weren't jerks. I was surprised by, I guess, the stuff that was going on. And like what a full mission profile looked like to really because you're in like a SEAL Team 2, like, yeah, we're going to go do a sniper overwatch or a PSD, or we're going to go kick in the thing. It's totally different when you're going out for some really bad guys. Yeah. When you have guys that are armed and there's, a dozen plus, it looks a little different. You're like, crap. Okay. these guys are responsible for this, and we're going to go get them.
Yeah.
So,
is there an element? Because I know, like the stuff that we did, and granted, my experiences, everybody's experiences are different, but
of course,
putting the face to the name kind of thing, that it almost, would you say it personalizes it? Like this is the motherfucker. This is what they've done. Like, I can only imagine that there's an element of motivation that's even higher, knowing like this is the motherfucker that's responsible for X.
this. Yeah, when they're responsible for American deaths, it's like, okay, dude, it's being brought. Like it's on.
Yeah. So you went to Gold. You did five combat deployments. I mean, for the listener, for me, I mean, for most people, that's. I think anybody listening, I mean, that's hard to wrap your mind around. I mean, can you walk us through, I mean, especially the first deployment, I guess I'm curious to see the contrast or hear about the contrast between, 2 deployments as we'll call it vanilla SEAL or a regular team guy versus now the Jedi fucking Team 6.
We wish we were Jedis.
Yeah.
I tell you what, man, my first deployment, and again, my deployments were different times. Some were 4 months, some were 3. One was 2, and I think one was only like a month and a half, I believe. So it varied. But I remember my first deployment, and I was just eyes open and listen, and just watch how these guys move, watch how they operate. And I was a breacher. I was the team breacher, so I was just in charge of breaching, which is like I love it. And you're doing breaches every night. I mean, dual breaches. I mean, blowing down big doors, big gates, and you're engaging the enemy, and it's on. It was a totally different target set. It's not like, hey, we need to go detain this guy, and there's like no weapons. No, there's dudes with machine gun positions. They're throwing grenades at you. They've got booby traps, early warning systems. It was the real deal. I mean, there's sentries sitting out there where your snipers are taking them out quietly. I mean, it was eye-opening. I was like, holy shit. Like, you don't even, you get back at night, you're like, wow, that did just happen.
Yeah.
It did just happen. Like, so that is the smell of death.
Yeah.
So it became very real, very, very real, very, very fast. And I just tried to consume and watch the guys that have been there, done that. I mean, because there's guys, really, honestly, over there, 6 or 7 deployments, it's a number. There's guys over there with 12, 13, 14, 15 deployments. I mean, those guys, like 3, 4 Purple Hearts.
Yeah.
And those are the dudes that you look to, like, and they're just cool on target, gunfire, and they are just cool.
Yeah. And
I wasn't at the, first, I was like, crap, like, dude, this sucks. Like, we are getting shot at. But then as like your experience kicks in, it's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You got to dodge the bullet. This isn't Wanted with Angelina Jolie where you're going to duck and dodge it.
Or Neo in the Matrix.
Right, exactly. That's a better example. Yeah. But yeah, no, you just kind of like get opened up to it. So like conflict wasn't, you kind of get amped up if a fight breaks out.
Yeah.
Would kind of like, you would lose it. You were just more calm. Like, this is my job. This is what I'm here for.
Yeah.
So it would definitely get tamed.
Yeah. No, that's it's hard to, I think, for a lot of people to imagine the amount of desensitizing that it would take to get to that level. But
yeah, and there's a price tag that comes with that you learn once you get out.
Yeah. Well, it essentially it deadens your emotional bandwidth in all ways.
It definitely does.
That's certainly that's been an issue I've had in my personal life of
mine as well.
Of not having enough fucks to give, and to me there's a certain element of benefit of, I don't ever really get depressed. I don't ever really get excited either.
Right.
Like, it's just I'm almost too even keeled as far as like big emotion stuff. I may lose my temper over something stupid or whatever, but like big ticket items, it's just like, yeah, well, fuck, whatever. Like, and there's an element that's kind of relieving, but there's an element that's I think borders on toxic for personal relationships.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think I should write a book on toxic relationship. Yeah.
But to me, one of the issues I see with our government and our society having an expectation for guys like us to go do those types of things, and not just do them, but be fucking successful.
Right.
Almost to any means, but then have the expectation to come back and deal with a Gillette toxic masculinity campaign of shave your beard because you're too toxically, masculine. Like,
yep.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I know. What do you expect? Yeah.
So But I'm curious, like, so as you did your first deployment, and as you got more and more seasoned, what type of mental toll and emotional strain did that put on you, both professionally and personally, and did you recognize it?
To answer the end of that, no, I didn't recognize anything. I thought, when I was very successful in my SEAL career, I was very good at my job. And I say that very humbly. I just was well trained by people above me and just by listening and learning from my counterparts. But I didn't realize my home life was falling apart. Like, not there for my kids. I mean, I'd be there. There's a scene in American Sniper where he comes back and he's looking at the blank TV. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He's just staring at the TV. The TV's not on. I think he's holding a beer, and he's just spaced out.
Yeah.
And I saw that, and I kind of got choked up, started weeping. I'm like, dude. And of course I saw this after my deployments and stuff. I was like, man, that was me. Like I was come back, and I would come back, and I'm like, I'm not even there. I'm like, I'm physically there, but I wasn't there for my children. Got a divorce from it. And you don't realize, you're like, no, this is important. This is for the country, and you're believing this.
Yeah.
And it is an important job, especially at that time when Iraq and Afghanistan were both kicking off. I mean, and you got terrorist attack here on our homeland. But I didn't realize that was happening at all.
Yeah.
At all. So I don't know if I just took a tangent on that or.
Well, I mean, I steered that fucking ship, but
yeah.
But I mean, to me, it's an important element that I know we'll revisit a couple of times throughout the rest of the talk. But
okay, so I got the original question. So deployment wise, dude, it was awesome. You would get calloused as the shootings became more frequent and the killings became more frequent, and then you're like, well, I kind of want to try this gun. And, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've never done a silencer before. I mean, all legal. It's nothing weird, but yeah, you kind of just go to that spot and I want to see if I can get, what can I get tonight? It's almost like a drug. I mean, just the feeling of taking out a bag. I don't know if this is a bad thing. I remember the feeling that came with killing a bad guy, knowing that they're responsible for this and they're trying to kill you, was the greatest feeling I've ever experienced in my life. I don't know if that makes me crazy, but I mean, just taking that off the face of this earth, because that is pure evil over there. It was a most amazing thing. And I was like, okay. And like
you get addicted to it.
I could get addicted to it. Yeah. And I had a guy he was reaching for a gun, and I could have probably stopped myself, but I shot him and killed him. And I felt bad for it. I think it was my first or second deployment. I think it was my second deployment. I felt really bad for it. It's just and I usually don't feel bad. I'm like,
second deployment with gold.
Yes. Yeah. I felt bad about it. And I asked the intel guy, because we took some stuff. I was like, hey, if you find anything that this guy's like super bad, can you please tell me? Because I don't know why. I just did. And he came and got me later that night. He's like, come here. So he showed me, and he put in this disc and he played it. And the guy that I shot had KBR, Kindle Brown and Root. They do all the transportation, run the cafeterias over there and all that stuff. He had these Filipino ones standing on the side of the road, kind of staked out, and they were doing ballistic tests on their bodies, stabbing them, shooting them in different parts, and just watching it, joking around. And it was that guy that I shot. And I remember when something happened, that when I saw that, I was like, never again will I feel for these freaking piece of shit, ever. Yeah. It was over. It just took me to another place, and I'm like, all right, how many can I get? I'm out for you. Yeah. It's just you could do that to another human being, a truck driver that has a family over, wherever they're from.
So just so that I'm clear or aware of what you're talking about, and the listener for that matter, you're talking living workers that were working for basically the U.S. government.
They pretty much kidnapped them and had them on the side of the road as they were driving the truck.
Tied to a stake.
Tied them down, tied them up, they're kind of like a scarecrow.
Yeah. And
they were just doing testing, all right, let's shoot them in the leg.
While they're alive.
And you can just see them screaming and they're crying. I I still can picture that.
Jesus fuck, man.
So when that happened, you can just like in my brain, I was like, okay,
it's fucking on.
It's fucking on. It was on before, but it's like really on now.
Yeah.
Like I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Like I am your beast.
Yeah.
I'm coming for you.
Yeah. And that was your second deployment, right? So
I believe it was. I think it was my second one. I just remember like it was. That always sticks out to me because I'm like, what happened? Like I just remember I felt so bad. I mean, the guy was reaching for a weapon, but I think I could have done other means possibly. But then again, I could have killed a buddy. Yeah. So it's just that one, kind of struck me weird. And then he showed me that. I was like, never again.
Do you think that there was an element of maybe his body language or something that he was doing almost subconsciously that made you think that he was not necessarily not a bad person, but was weak or not even a formidable enemy?
I don't know I think maybe it was just like it was a quiet target. There really wasn't much. Usually there's a lot of going on. There really wasn't much besides this dude. I think there was one other situation outside. I don't know. It just struck me as weird. It was very odd and eerie for me. But then when I saw that, I was like, and that was like the first time I knew what they were capable of, but to see it and to see the guy that you just shot doing that, it was a good feeling knowing that guy was gone.
Yeah, no shit. So with your second deployment and really on all of them, I'm curious in terms of the op tempo, operational tempo, the pace with which, for those of you listening, it's a term we use a lot, and it gets used a lot because that tends to be one of our Achilles heels, is that we all love to work. We like to stay busy when we're overseas, but that op tempo is a double-edged sword because it's what either gets you complacent or tired to the point where you're not thinking clearly or exposing yourself in the same areas too many times in a row. I mean, there's a multitude of negatives to it. Obviously, the benefits are that you're doing more and more work and making a bigger and bigger difference. But I'm curious, from deployment to deployment, what was the op tempo for you the same? Was it just balls to the wall every fucking time? Was there any variance? It
felt like balls to the wall the whole time. I mean,
going out every night.
I wouldn't say every night. Sometimes, there'd be, 7 to 15 days straight. And then there might be every other night. And then there might be the occasional, all right, we have 2 nights off.
Yeah.
I think there might have been once where we had like 3 nights off. But I mean, you're putting all that gear on, you're walking X amount of miles, X amount of hours up a mountain. And then, then you got the adrenaline dump of, getting in a firefight. It takes a toll. Like it takes, you don't realize it until you kind of come home and you step on the American soil and you know the feeling. It's like, I can breathe. Finally, I can breathe. So yeah, I mean, it was what I would consider balls to the wall. And then the guys that were more experienced and guys that I still talk to today that are still carrying out still fighting the war. We were like, it was very balls to the wall, as we would call it. Yeah.
Did you do a mix of Afghan and Iraqi deployments?
Yes, and Africa. One Africa, and then I think it was 3 or 4 Iraq, and the rest were Afghanistan. More Iraq than Afghanistan.
Yeah. Was there any missions that you can share that kind of stand out as being either exceptionally important or went horribly fucking wrong, or I mean, were there ones where you lost any of your teammates?
Yeah, there's a couple of those. That was definitely one. Mike and Nate, that was my first time losing friends. Yeah. The op was crazy. We had 3 targets. We went to 1. And we were about to go in, and I'm looking at night vision. I was looking through. I had a good vantage point through the door, and there's kids running around. There's women, and I'm like, okay, this will be good. I mean, there's kids and women, right? They're not going to do anything. And then this guy just clacks himself off. The roof lifts off of the structure and kind of settles back down. We all got nailed with rocks and debris and shrapnel from the blast, and so the other 2 targets sent guys to us because obviously we were like dealing with some stuff. So we had women and children all jacked up, running around and trying to take care of that, and there was a kind of like an adjacent structure that we also had to take care of. So they would send more down. Nothing really happened, and then we hear gunshots at the other 2 places, and we go back up there, and we realize that 2 of our buddies got shot. Went into a room, and there was a machine gun position, and just took them both out. So that was a crazy op. Just looking down, seeing your buddy with his head, trying to keep this G, just because like family members and stuff. Just seeing your buddy down there in the condition that he was.
I mean, you're welcome to say whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, just like seeing his head open, it's just like it's a thing you don't forget, and just seeing that and be like, crap, this can happen to us too. Yeah. And then just it was very real. And then I think we took away 2 detainees from that target, and I did not want to take them away. I wanted to. Yeah. I was so fucking pissed. I wanted to mutilate them. I wanted to like just do some medieval stuff to them. Obviously, we can't because we have all these rules that we find ourselves in. So we took them back. But I just remember being just looking them on the plane. Like I just want to just knife you. Just want to take you out. Yeah. You don't deserve to be here, you piece of shit.
Yeah. Was that was there a dog that got injured on that op also?
That was a week later with Louis.
Okay,
and that is my nightmare op.
Yeah, can you walk us through that? We're gonna have his handler on soon, but I'd love to hear the shooter's perspective.
Benny's coming on.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So he Breacher, just my dog, went down there for his training. He just got trained by him. He's a good dude. So we went down to. It was a week later after Mike and Nate died. And then when you see your buddies die, ops change. You seem to be a little more cautious before you go into this door. You seem to be like you kind of watch your step a little bit more. And then a week later, we were around this building, and actually Delta sent 2 of their guys up to kind of backfill us because we lost those guys, just kind of see what's going on. And I was team leader that night because my team leader was sick, so I was acting team leader. And I told Louis, I actually radioed him. I'm like, hey, Louis, go, because they were starting to get people out, and there was a lot of kids. I was like, hey, go help them, get these kids into one spot. So he's like, roger that, goes up to the door, and I'm like, all right, they need help. So I went up with Louis, and I put my hand on Louis's right shoulder. And I just got this weird sense, and this is one of these things I can't explain it now. Definitely God, like 100%. Is I put my hand on his shoulder, and I was like, "Hey, dude, it's getting kind of crowded. I'm gonna head back on the other side of the wall." He's like, "All right, dude, I got it." I was like, "I love you." And he goes, "I love you too." And I walked around, and as soon as I was just about through the gate on the back side of the wall, the house explodes. And Louis was on this pillar. He was standing by this big pillar in this huge overhang. And this overhang kind of slid, at least a ton of concrete, slid down on him and just crushed him. Just destroyed him. He was done. And it took out, we had to medevac, I think 6 or 7 guys from that. Guys were just crumbled. Just done. And then Digo was the dog. Yeah. Because I remember running out, like, what's going on? Because you're waiting for the smoke to clear. And Digo was actually biting my foot. So I'm like, Sam, what the heck is that? I'm like, and Digo, I look down, I just see Digo's head. Like, he's covered in rubble. Yeah. And just his head, I'm like, oh man. So I don't have time to mess around with the dog. I ripped my freaking foot out. I think it took some teeth out, but we had our guys down there. So I went down to where I thought Louis was and found him. And I remember reaching in there, grabbing his leg, and it felt like jelly.
Fuck.
It was like there is no bone structure, and it's just like there was nothing left, and it was just. And I guess that was kind of like a survivor's guilt because I'm the one that told him to go up there, and that's been unsettling ever. It still is. It flares up at times. Like I think it was it's February 4th, I believe. When that comes up, man, it's just like I think about that night and Benny, he had 2 compound femur fractures, carrying him out, and just the screaming that was going on. God, like that is probably, I don't think there's any other injury that could top that. It was just mass chaos, and that was the first time I was like, we just got our asses handed to us. Yeah. And there was buildings all over us. I'm just waiting to get hit by other people. Random shots were going on. It was just a very bad feeling. we had 6 guys down. House just blew up. Your buddy that you just told, he's dead. 0 life. It was fucking chaos, man. That was chaos. Yeah. That sucked.
So, 6 guys down pretty hard, right?
Yeah. Some of them were limping around. They're pretty tore up, bleeding everywhere. It was like what you would see like in, a war movie like Saving Private Ryan. Your guys are like totally jacked up. But mostly like fractures, just jacked up from debris, not really gunshots, but obviously, explosion. It can be detrimental.
In terms of the bringing, so you get all your guys back, like how did that impact you guys operationally moving forward for the rest of that deployment? That's got to be.
Yeah, we brought in some guys from another country that were in our team, brought them in. Then some guys that were back at the command came out and backfilled us. So we had to like kind of do that. But dude, losing 2 guys, then a week later you lose another guy.
And your handler and dog.
And then you're like, shit. I mean, it's like, dude, it's just like, okay, like what's going on? Because we're so used to having the upper hand. And it was the first time in my career, I'm like, I didn't feel like we had the upper hand. And the cell we were on was actually Saddam's main dudes, like SF guys. I mean, they all got theirs, trust me.
Yeah.
But that was the most memorable op. It was just, I've never been in chaos. That would be my description of chaos, was that night.
Do you think that there's any element of insider bullshit that led to you guys getting rolled up that way, or was it just, your number gets called sometimes?
Well, it's just like, I mean, it's simple. You're stacking on a house and you're about to go in and someone sets off a house-born IED. I mean, they're ready for it. I mean, they're ready for it. They're like, they made up in their mind, like if this happens, we're all going to go to this God we call Allah, right? That's what they're thinking. And so that's what they did. And they took out everybody inside.
Did they have any other or exterior positions opening up on you guys? Or it was just like
there was random shots, but I think it was just like pop shots. It was nothing else. I think everything was contained in the building.
So it wasn't so much coordinated, multiple moving parts.
No. I mean, but when you're in it,
oh yeah,
you're like, fuck, we're going down. Like this is happening. Like, we're going down.
Yeah.
It was definitely a puckering feeling.
Yeah.
Definitely not a good one.
Moving on from that mission and staying on that deployment, what was the rest of that deployment like in terms of op tempo work? I mean, obviously you continued the mission with new guys and whatever, but how was that dealing with that type of loss, that close, that in your face, still having to go out there night after night?
It was very stressful. I remember everyone handled it a little bit differently. Some guys would go sleep it away. I would sleep for like an hour or two. I'd be up. I'd be asleep for an hour or two. I'd be up and just kind of suppress the pain with anything I could. Without getting into things.
Chemical or otherwise.
Yeah, anything that I probably shouldn't be doing. And just it changed it. And when the first 2 guys passed away, I was saying earlier that you're kind of more cautious, but then when it happens again a week later, you're more cautious. But then you got to like, okay, wait a second. Like if you're too cautious, you still can't lose that aggressiveness. Yeah. You still got to be deliberate with your actions. You still have to go get it. And after a couple ops, you're like, all right, we're still owning this, and we kind of like, I guess it kind of comes back to that mindset thing. Like we're still going to do our job, and we're still going to take it to them. We might be down, but we're definitely not out. And it was a great deployment. We did a lot of good things. We cleaned up the areas that we went into. We lost those 3 amazing heroes, legends, whatever. I mean, they were just amazing men. But other than that, no, we carried on, because that's, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
That's how we we had to suppress our feelings.
Yeah.
Couldn't think about it.
And I'm curious, when you lose guys like that, obviously you're still on deployment. The funerals are taking place. You don't even get to fucking go to them. I know for me that was always a really hard thing for me to manage and juggle was when that happened. What did you guys do anything when you came back from that deployment to honor those guys? Yeah,
we did. We did a service overseas, obviously, and we put up their weapons and their helmets and like around our flag and with their pictures. And before every night, all the guys would go. I mean, it was their helmets they were wearing. So, I mean, there was bullet holes. There was blood soaked, still dripping down the rifle. And we wanted it that way. Yeah. We didn't want to clean it up. And we would touch their helmets every night before we go out. I mean, it's just kind of like, hey, this is for you. This is for you. I mean, I guess in a way it was kind of like, hey, this is what we can do for you, like, and honor you. We're still taking the fight because they believed in the same thing. Yeah. Get rid of evil. And that's exactly what we were going to get. Yeah. When we got back, we did do something. I can't remember exactly. One thing I know for Louis, he was a really good friend of mine. We did a dive trip down to Miami. We actually have a reunion one here in a couple weeks, going back down there to Fort Lauderdale to do a dive trip with his family. Nice. With Jamie, his widow. And so, I mean, so we're going to do that. We do that every year. I haven't done the last couple of years, but did that, go diving because he had a free diving place. He was a big free diver. And he would, there's a spot that he would always go to, and that's where we go diving. Nice. So it's just kind of a thing that we do. So there's little traditions that we try to do to remember them. You know, we always say never forget, never forget. And we don't forget them. And you know that just as well as anyone else. But you still got to carry on the tradition because those guys left an impact in my life that I'll carry on to my children, that hopefully they will carry on to theirs. Yeah. So I mean, it just goes down.
Yeah. Is there any traditions in terms of taking any of those guys' ashes to any special places or anything?
I know that's more of extortion. I can't remember, like, dude, my memory's a fog with that. There's been so many darn deaths and funerals, especially with extortion. Yeah. Each one had their own thing. Each family had a plan for, whatever they wanted. So, I mean, some were buried in Arlington. Yeah. So I don't know the answer to that. Yeah.
One thing before we get into the next deployments and subsequent issues, specifically extortion, you mentioned some of the CAG guys, Delta guys coming in. What was that like working with them? Because I know, like, one of my best friends growing up, and I'm going to get off on a tangent here for just a second. But one of my best friends growing up, he was a Ranger for a number of years. And then he screened and went to Delta and was on his first deployment to Iraq with one of their squadrons. And there's actually FLIR video footage of him. They're doing a high value target assault, and they're in Little Birds getting ready to land on a rooftop in Baghdad. And there's like a mattress pad or something on the rooftop. And as they're flaring, like, he had unclipped from the deck 2 feet off the fucking rooftop, and that mattress pad flew up into the rotor and it spun. He flew out, the tail rotor swung around and hit him and took his right leg off and broke the whole rest of the side of his body and threw him into one of those fucking lips, and I mean, he lived, but I mean, it fucked him up. Obviously. I mean, he got medically retired afterwards and, has half his body's metal. He had a really bad brain injury for a number of years, but my point in bringing that up is that I remember when he went from being a Ranger to being a Delta guy, that same, I think it got to his head. I'm not talking shit, brother. I love you, but
he's talking shit.
But he did. I am talking shit. Like, he got a little big for his britches. Like, there's definitely a paradigm shift in how he talked to me, and whatever. And so I'm curious, because you guys are both at that tier 1 status, and obviously it's like Army Navy game of almost. Course, yeah. How was it working with them? Is it like, all bullshit aside, hey, we're brothers and we're doing the deal? Or I
mean, there was still that, like, hey, we're better than you. I mean, we all know that we were better than them. Yeah. No, they're great guys, man. I never had a problem with them. I learned a lot from them. There's definitely a different training and mindset, because Delta, you can come from any like field.
National Guard cook.
Right. You can do anything. And then where the SEALs, like, we're kind of groomed the same, which could be good and could be bad, but we're all like, we know what we've been through together. We've been through shit together. I know you've done this many deployments together. We've had the same training. Where those guys might have done like 5 years, like you just had a cook, or 5 years to one engineering stuff. And then, okay, now you pass the screening. Now you're going to be tier 1. But my experience with them, I thought they were awesome. Yeah. When they came up to backfill us when we lost our first 2 guys, they were awesome. Yeah. I mean, it was actually the Command Master Chief and the CEO, I believe. They were freaking awesome. They told us about new gear. We told them about ours. I mean, it was awesome. I love them.
Are there instances where those guys are jumping right into your fucking units and kicking doors in? Or
the first couple, like, we'll kind of like they'll kind of hang back, see how we're kind of flowing, but then before you know it, they're right there in the train. Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, CQB.
Yeah, no, that's good shit.
Yeah.
All right, so obviously you're continuing to do deployments even after these issues come up with losing guys. Before we get into Extortion 17, between then and Extortion 17, and kind of as you finish your time at Dam Neck, what were those deployments like? Was there anything that stuck out as being big missions that really defined who you are, both professionally, personally, mentally, etc.?
I remember I give this example. I do speeches once in a while, and I always go back to this one op that I did, and it was just kind of to show, like, as you say, I've said the word mindset. I don't know how many times, because I'm a big believer in it. That you can kind of make your mind like, hey, we can sit here and cry about it, or we can make this situation better. Yeah. So I tend to go with the latter and try to make things better. Most of us are exactly that same way. It was actually a couple weeks after Louis passed away. We did an op, and my team wasn't primary assault team, so we were kind of like holding the backside of the structure security. And they couldn't get in. There was machine guns. They were throwing grenades. All the gates were locked. Everything. And we started going through walls. So my team leader was like, "Hey Eddie, like go do this." I was like, "Roger that." And I just started blowing holes in these walls and ended up taking out every dude. It was fucking awesome. It was me and Dom Rasso, you know him. Oh, yeah. Him and I were just running up to the back of these things, throwing these charges on there, taking them down, and then we would go clear it. And these guys would be so dazed, and they would be so dazed from the explosion. Once the dust was settled, you just kind of see them, and then you just finish them off. Yeah, he's got a big machine gun in their lap, and then once that's settled, this is probably the funniest thing that ever happened to me on target. I walked into where the main room where these guys were, where they had like 2 machine guns. There was a guy up top and like a little machine gun nest, and they had like a big stack of grenades. And I walked in, I was like, they got carpet in here. This is the first time I've been into
I'm taking my boots off.
I'm like, they have got carpet in here. And I'm like, that is so weird. I'm like, this is like the softest carpet I've ever been on. So like once we start clearing, I like turn on my flashlight. I look down and there's just this eyeball kind of looking at me. It wasn't carpet at all. My charge. This guy must have had his back up against the wall, totally flattened him.
No shit.
So it was like my first breaching kill. It was awesome. Like I was like patting myself on the back. I'm like, this is the greatest night ever. But there's this dude just kind of flattened out from my explosive charge.
Holy
and
fuck.
I was like, this is kind of funny.
Fucking
this is kind of funny.
Carpet.
This is kind of funny. There's a couple more crazy stories, but that op was big. And the reason why I bring that up is just I realized with like the training of like that we got, through the pipeline, of exactly what we can do as a team. Like, we're just blowing holes in the wall, and, we're taking where it seemed like we're not getting into this castle. Like they're not letting us in. And then we just kind of improvised,
make your way in,
use our brains, and started like going. And now it's we use the method a lot. So it was cool.
It's like the ultimate flashbang.
It was my like personal, like kind of like, that made me feel really good.
Yeah. No shit. Was there any other instances like that stick out as being exceptional or really burn your mind?
Yeah, there was. I had one. There was an op. It was with Dom Rasso again. Him and I were like we were in the same team, so we did a lot of our. We were in gold pretty much the whole time together. We were again backside security, and we just hear all this gunfire. We're like, at that point, we're like, crap, man, we're missing out on all the fun. This sucks. So we go out on the back side of this building, and there's a bunch of windows, and we're just kind of looking. Like, is there anybody to shoot? Is there anybody to shoot? And then Dom comes, I think, to the second window, and there's a dude there with an AK. He takes him out, and I'm like, and of course, I'm like pissed at this point. I'm like, I want to shoot somebody. I want to be a part of the fun. It's like I have Tom's disease, terrified of missing shit, right? Like I want to be a part of the party. Like that's why I'm out until like 2:00 in the morning when I was in the teams all the time. I don't want to miss any fun.
Yeah.
Then I get to the next window, and then there's another dude. There's like they had all these rooms occupied. Took that guy out, and
like
then,
fucking whack-a-mole.
And then we just like started taking. Dom and I ended up taking like 3 or 4 guys out on this like line of houses or on this line of rooms. But when we go in, this is the funniest thing. Dom's on the ground with the flashlight looking. I'm like, what are you looking for? He's like, this guy's missing his eyeballs. So, like, if you look at this guy, like, he doesn't have any
trauma or damage.
There you go. No trauma whatsoever. His eyes are literally gone. It's just like black, hollow holes. I was like, well, what are you looking for? And he goes, his eyeballs. And I go, Dom, bro, do you think they're just like little marbles, like rolling around on the ground? And he goes, you're right, I'm an idiot. Like, so, like, that was probably another op that was just like kind of funny, like just a ha-ha moment. Like, dude. He's like, I'm an idiot. What am I doing right now? So that's definitely a good one.
We'll have to get Dom on here and get his.
Yeah. There's definitely, we got a couple of those stories of just being complete idiots.
No, that's fucking, I mean, that's about the only way you can even try to keep your sanity.
It's exactly right. You just got to try to have fun and make best of your situation.
Yeah. Being, with my relationship to dogs and what I do for a living, is there a dog story you can share that either, was a capability that they did that you're just like, holy fuck, I'm glad we had the dogs. I'd love to give our viewers some dog stories.
Absolutely. We had another target, of course, and we had a couple guys run out with I think they had a couple RPGs, and we had the DAP birds, the gunships pretty much, to come and just drop all this ordnance. I mean, missile after missile after bomb after bomb after gun run after gun run. And these dudes were still alive. We could still pick them up that they were still alive. And we tried every option. And we're like, all right, let's send the dog. So we sent, it was Digo, I believe, still Digo.
Yeah.
Sent the dog, and the dog found him and ripped his throat out.
Yeah.
And took him out. So we just wasted like hundreds of thousands of dollars on ordnance, where really we just need to send the dog.
Yeah.
And he took that guy. The guy was hiding in the reeds and shallow water with the big like cattails or whatever you want to call it, the reeds. And he was hiding in there with just his head out, but just enough to where the dog could get him, and and when we got him, I mean, he just ripped open his throat.
Yeah. And he fucking killed him, right?
Killed him.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
But so Digo, and I don't know if you remember a dog named Breston.
I do remember Breston.
Digo and Breston were the first two dogs that came here with the Warrior Dog Foundation. So, it's...
You had Digo, didn't you?
Here, yeah.
Okay, that's right.
For
Got you.
Shit, almost 5 years.
That's right. Awesome.
Yeah, once Digo retired, he came here. I mean, he was pissing vinegar until the day he died. I mean, he was just an absolute motherfucker in all the best ways possible.
I want what he has, because that dog was not even of this world.
No, I know. No, he's fucking nuts. I mean, some of the stories I've heard about him, that being one of them. But it was neat, and same with Preston. I mean, there's so many stories. I mean, some of them are in the Trident book, but. It's so neat to hear guys who were on the missions with some of these dogs and kind of putting those pieces together for us here, who had the honor and pleasure of taking care of him in his twilight years.
They were the
pretty
real
neat,
deal. I was just very impressed.
Yeah.
I mean, they would always give you a little nip on the helo.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I just love you. Good to see you. Thanks, Dick. Thanks for ripping my camis.
Yeah, that's no shit. Was there any other dog stories similar to? Whether it's an IED find or even a cache. I know like some of the cache.
The dogs were good at that. One thing that I always found about the dogs is they use the red dot, the little red laser, is how they would methodically go through. We'd have the cameras on them, and they would go through and just attack these dudes. Like they would go behind the curtains, they would go check in the blankets, and I'm like, the training that I just remember thinking like some of us don't even do that. Like these guys are smarter than us, but they would methodically go like lower, then we go in the upper, and you can see their lights. Like if you just lift up, you can see their their lights, and it was crazy. I was we lost a dog on one of our ops. That was horrible. I remember he got shot, and Robic was his name. And that was a horrible. It was actually the same night with Dom and I, where Dom was looking for the eyeballs. It was actually the same op. Our dog got shot, and that op, actually there was dudes dressed as women as well.
Yeah.
So that was a weird night. But I mean, dude, those dogs do phenomenal things every single night. It's like we would send the dogs in most of the time before us. I mean, they would flush dudes out. It was crazy. I mean, they're just such a vital piece to that, to our mission, you know, on the battlefield. They're phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's impossible to quantify and put a number on, the impact that they have, but could you even begin to put kind of a ballpark, like there's X number of guys, or for a fact, like there are dudes, maybe even yourself included, that are here today because of some of those dogs? I
would say quite a few. I mean, not just one or two. I'd say quite a few. I mean, it's just it's insane, but the capabilities that they have, and I don't know all the training that goes into it, but I mean, you guys do a phenomenal job. That just the trainers that do that, but I mean, countless guys. I mean, just dog sitting, dogs taking guys that were hiding, finding guys that were hiding. I mean, one guy with a AK-47 and a full magazine. That's what, 30 rounds, 28, whatever. That's a lot of dudes. Yeah. Come get a guy. I mean, and a dog takes that guy out. I mean, that could save 5 to 6 dudes right there. Yeah. And that happened quite a bit. Yeah. So,
did you guys do anything for Robic when he was? Did you guys have any type of memorial thing?
We did. We had something. I can't remember exactly what it was. But we did do something for him.
Because that's one of the things they do on the quarterdeck at the command.
Actually,
right?
I got a tattoo of Robic right here.
Dude, that's fucking awesome.
There he is, right there.
If you can lift that up for the camera, I don't know if you can see that or not, but if you're listening, check it out on YouTube. You can see a picture of Robic. That's fucking badass.
So I got that. That was the deployment, and there's a certain number of skulls on there. There's 87. That's how many kills we had that deployment without air support. So, it's got Mike, Nate, and Louis call signs on there. So it's like kind of my memorial tattoo for those guys.
Awesome. Yeah. So, was Robic the only dog that you guys lost while you were?
For my deployments, yes, he was the only one, and then obviously Dico got totally jacked up. Yeah. But those are the only two.
Yeah, that's one thing. It's one of the most common questions I get is, do dogs get lost a lot? And while they do, I mean, their capability is such that many times, they prevent themselves from being rolled up.
Right.
Percentage wise, like they don't lose a lot of them. They are lost, but. The component and augmentation and asset that they bring to the table for all of our forces is hard to overstate it. Really, I'd say it's probably impossible.
It's so significant that I remember being on ops where there was no dog and not liking it.
Yeah,
like I don't like this.
Yeah.
It's like it was almost like, hey, I just went on an op without a gun.
Yeah, like a
so they just bring a comfort, and like having a comfort in that environment, anything that you can possibly. I mean, how it is.
Yeah. That security blanket.
Totally. And they provided that 100% of the time. I loved having them there.
Yeah.
They're like, we're bringing 2 dogs. I was like, thank God.
Yeah.
Can we bring 12?
Shit. Which, now you have one from similar lines.
Yes,
right?
I do. And I love him.
Yeah. Old
he is awesome.
Breacher. He's a fucking handful, right?
He's the man.
Good shit.
He's a big teddy bear.
Yeah. Well, just like you, right?
Right.
All right, let's slip the dogs of war. Goddamn, it's it's impossible not to love. I mean, to me, if you don't love dogs, you're a fucking communist and you're not welcome in the house. But
that's very true.
So moving on into the deployments, this is where our paths probably came the close to crossing in terms of just both significance of loss and shared loss was with the Extortion 17 mission that is unquestionably the biggest blow to naval special warfare in the history of it. And I know I'll let you kind of tell the story because I know your personal situation was woven into that story pretty significantly. Right. But for me, I'll just when I heard about it, I had just come back. I was on my way back from doing some training with the West Coast Canine program. I was driving back to Texas. And one of my former business partners called and told me about it, and fucking heart sunk, And I went to the memorial out on the East Coast and ran into a bunch of guys. I knew a number of those guys, but I was not on Gold Squadron the way you were. So if you can walk us through that, I'd love to hear it.
So before that deployment when Extortion happened, I went through a divorce, and somehow I got custody of 3 children.
Yeah.
So here I am, an operator. I can barely take care of myself. Yeah. I can operate overseas. And I get custody of an 8-month-old a boy, a 4-year-old daughter, and a 9-year-old daughter.
That says a lot about maybe your former significant other. If a judge is you need those kids. It says
quite a bit. It says quite a bit. So I was trying to do the 50-50 so I could just do I wasn't, even going to say, hey, I'll stop deploying. I'll just do a training thing. But I got full custody and I was in shock. And this was 2 weeks before deployment. This is the deployment before Extortion. This is when Adam Brown passed away.
Yeah.
So I didn't go on that deployment because I was raising these children or trying to learn how to hashtag how to be a dad because I had no freaking clue.
This makes me think of a movie,
Pacifier,
where Rock, The Rock would play you in a movie and be like Mr. Mom 2.0.
I'll play The Rock. How's that? No.
I can see Disney making some shit like that. I mean, it sounds like a fucking movie.
Yeah, I've actually been thought about writing a book on that whole piece, because that is a battle in itself. Just taking care of those children, that was crazy. I mean, you got the deployments and the killing, and you're losing your buddies, and now hey, 3 kids, take care of one's 8-month in diapers. Yeah. What the hell's a diaper?
Yeah,
it's
Christ.
So that was the worst time of my life, and it was the best time of my life because I learned how to be a dad, and I got to be with those children that are the number one thing in my life. So that's definitely a blessing. So I did that. I remember the guy that I told you was kind of my mentor at Team 2, and then he later became the Command Master Chief. I was actually in Dick's Sporting Goods, and I was pushing my cart, and I had my son in the little carrier in the cart, and then my 2 little ones, and he just looks at me And he just like shakes his head, and I go, and I was like, yeah, F my life. Like this is literally happening right now. But anyways, did that. And then what worked out was that my ex-wife would get the children during the summer.
Yeah.
So it worked out that the deployment extortion was actually 1 week after the kids were gone.
Yeah.
So I went back. I was like, hey, I'd love to jump on this deployment, like jump back in my team. Like, I'll just be a shooter, carry whatever you want me to do. I'll, carry heavy things. I don't care. I just want to deploy, one more time. I kind of look back at that. I'm like, was I being selfish with that? Considering I had 3 kids and I'm putting myself back in harm's way. But I'm also, there's also there's another side to that. It's like your boys, it is, man. Like you get off that train, you see your boys like punching out and still taking the fight to the enemy. You miss that. It's like oxygen. It's like blood.
You feel a sense of responsibility.
Totally. And then I got a call at, that deployment I told you I missed where Adam Brown passed. I got a call at, I think it was 2 a.m. from my team leader. He's like, hey, Adam just passed. And like, we were on the phone, like crying, talking, doing shots, talking about Adam for a couple hours. So I was like, dude, I got to go on this. And I think it was only like a 60-day deployment because that's all I could do with the kids' school schedule. So I went on it and I was set to come back 3 days before extortion happened. I was supposed to come back like 5 days after extortion. So something like around there. I was supposed to come back the same time when the guys, when their bodies came back. So extortion happened, and I remember watching, we call it Kill TV. You got like all the TVs watching the operations, and there was 2 helos, and one of them went down, and we're like trying to get radio comms, like, hey, because we knew all our guys were on one of the helos, and one of them just had the air crew. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we don't want anyone to get killed, but obviously, it was the, our guys. And I remember watching that, and then they just kind of zoomed in on the crash site, and you can just see like 4 or 5 bodies, like just kind of on the backside. They were on the tail of the helo, just kind of spilled out. And I don't even have words to really put to that feeling, because my best friend was on there, Jason Workman. I met him at Team 2, Matt Mills, Rob Reeves. I could just go on, Lou Langless. There's just so many awesome guys on there. But like Workman, that was my best friend. Like he was my best buddy, and it sucked. It was like shit, and just the families, and just how many families were affected by these great warriors. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's still hope. Maybe there's still some alive. And we tried to go get the bodies. And our CEO's like, you're not going. Like, what do you mean we're not fucking going? We're fucking going. Like, are you kidding me? That's our guys. And I understand his thought process now is like, he didn't want us to see our guys charred and, whatever. I've heard the stories after from some Ranger buddies that went and actually, took care of that cleanup of that mess. It was probably good that we didn't get to see that because, as you know, those images are just ingrained in your mind. But I was set to come back because I had to be back for the kids like a few weeks later or something like that. And then Jason's Workman's family, Stacy, his widow, asked me to bring his body back. Of course, I'll just come back early. So I came back with Jason. And I remember, you see those pictures of like a dog kind of sitting next to the casket. They just lost their owner. That was kind of like me with Jason. I was like, we're on the C-17 flying back, and you just got these metal caskets. I can't remember how many caskets were in there because there was extra body parts, and there was 4 or 5 of us that came back with the bodies. And talk about a freaking experience, man. Just like being with your buddies are in there. You kind of want to see him, but you don't want to see him. I just remember laying next to his casket because I knew which one was his. I made sure I found out, and I was with his body for, I think it was like 2.5 weeks because we had to fly into Dover. I had a time to go down to my house, kind of get things, get my blues, all that stuff, because I was going to take the what they call the angel flights to Utah to his family. And my girlfriend at the time flew in, saw her for like a day, flew back up to Dover, stayed up there, and then we took the angel flight and had to drop off another dead body in like Missouri or something from an Army guy. Like, it's just a weird experience. Like, we're just dropping off these dead bodies. We get to Utah, And while this is happening, there's all these memorial service because I think that there were so many of our guys, like we're just, they had the command got, buses to go hit all these memorial services. And I really couldn't do them because I was with Jason. I had to stay with his body, which was, an honor. It was an honor to be with him because, he came in after me. He kind of like, the student kind of became the teacher. I mean, he was just so talented at everything he did and so good looking. God, like the best flowing hair. I mean, it was just amazing. So I was with him and his family and, a lot of drinking, a lot of suppressing feelings, a lot of just like, I don't want to be sober right now. I don't want to feel. So obviously alcohol was huge and alcohol kicked in big time for me when I got the custody of the kids. Like at night when they'd be in bed, I'd be like, all right, wine time. I didn't want to do hard liquor because I know how I can get on that stuff. So I'm like, I'll fight you. So it was just like, all right, I'll drink some wine. But it was just weird, just being with his body. And then, we have a service for them. And it was cool. You ever heard of Robert Earl Keen?
Yeah.
He sings a lot of awesome. Yeah. He's got a lot of really good songs. But they reached out to him because it was Jason, one of Jason's favorite singers. He came up to the funeral, didn't even hesitate.
Oh, sure.
Played a song. And then, took off. I mean, it was awesome. Like it was a really great service. And then took his body back to Arlington where they have the big service where they put everyone in the grave. And then, that's when I was done. Yeah. And I was with his body for enough to where they would open the caskets and I saw exactly kind of what happened. I mean, he was wrapped, but you could tell like he wasn't the same because he was a tall guy. I think he was like 6'2", 6'3", and he wasn't that, so.
Do you know, from a tactical standpoint, what exactly happened? Because I've heard a lot of different variations of it.
We all have. I've heard, the conspiracies and this and that, and were they using the right birds? No, but we did it again. The whole lone survivor thing, right? We did it with not having ISR. We wanted to go get the bad guys. They got hit with an RPG. The helicopter went down. And it's called war, and it's not fair, and it sucks, and that's what happened.
Yeah,
that is what I firmly believe in my heart.
Yeah.
Do I know all the external pieces that people are claiming or saying? No, and I don't give a shit. Like I don't care. Yeah. Like I know that there was good men on that helicopter because whatever stuff we want to try to bring up or stuff that it's not going to change anything. You're not going to bring them back. You're not going to change anything. It doesn't matter. So just respect those men, carry on the legend that they were, and move on. Like if you just like dwell on and try to like blame somebody, the fact of the matter is those men are no longer here, and you can't change that.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
I mean we could. I guess that kind of goes to the mindset. We can kind of sit there and tread water and just like, how do I get to land? Or we can start swimming to land.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, that's kind of like what you need to do.
Instead of treading water and thinking about how fucked you are. Like
right.
Just fucking start
swimming.
Or
find a solution. Yeah. The bottom, you're not bringing them back. It sucks. It's hard. And I know a lot of the families, they grieve and had to, and it's way harder for them than it was for me, obviously, because they weren't my family, but they kind of were too. I mean, I did years and years and years training, drinking, having great times with these guys, getting deep with these guys, knowing their families. So, brothers not by blood, but it is hard. It sucks.
Yeah.
It does suck.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking that away from any family, but it's war.
Yeah.
And war's not fair.
Is there an element, like from a survivor's guilt standpoint, of like, fuck you, I should? Because let's say that the custody thing had never taken place. Would you have been on that?
It's kind of funny you say that. When I chose to come back I volunteered again to come back to do that deployment. As I was talking to Jason, he's like, dude, come with us. He's like, it'll be fun. Like, just hang out with us.
Get the band back together.
But we weren't in the same platoon. I was like, no, I got to go back with my same team. I gotta run with them. And I wanted so bad to go hang out with them.
Yeah.
But there was that moment where like, hey, I could like push, and I probably would have got it to go. I want to go with these guys.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I did not do that. I went back because I was led to go back with my my original team. But yeah,
it's like flip of a coin, though.
It sucks, man. There's not a day that goes by I don't think of those guys, think of the memories that we have, the stupid crap we did. I they're just amazing. They're just amazing. Every one of them, they had their own little thing.
Yeah.
I can still remember Rob Reeves coming in with a calculator watch and a members only jacket. I'm like, you are the coolest dude I've ever met. Like, who wears a calculator watch? Yeah. He's like, I wear a calculator watch. I was like, yes, you do. So, I mean, there's just so many great stories of all these guys. That's a 1,000 podcasts just to cover, the accolades and the great things these guys did. But, I mean, they're in a better place, I believe, and I love them to death, and they made a great impact on my life that I can carry on to my children. So,
I did an Iraq deployment with Matt Mills. It was his first deployment, and the Mangler.
He is oh my God, he is so intense.
Yeah, I mean,
we used to spar back when I was doing my fighting. Yeah. He was always my sparring partner because we were about the same size. And that guy sweat so much, he would throw a punch, and you go to in sweat would come off and it would land in your eye, and you're like blinded. I can't even see. You're killing me with your sweat. And you freaking suck. I'm like, dude, I'd be like, stop, go wipe your face off. Like, get that sweat off your face.
Fucking grasshopper spitting at you.
Totally, dude.
Yeah. Chris Campbell was my first roommate. We went through Buds together, and
Chris is a great guy.
And and there was a number of other Team 3 guys that I didn't know quite as well, but knew them and had worked with them briefly or whatever. But for me, it was tough, and to even try to put myself in your guys' shoes of being from that squadron and working with those guys, and it just. It's a tough thing to even think about.
It's tough for the whole community. We all, we're all tied some way. Guys worked with them here, whatever, and there's all those memories that are built, and then you lose them. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, it's real. Yeah. I mean, it's very.
Yeah. One of the things I've noticed in doing this interview with you is I find it remarkable how fucking composed you are in talking about it, because a lot of guys aren't, even with our background. I've had plenty of guys get fucking choked up on here and whatever, and I'm curious, is there an element of what we were kind of talking about earlier in terms of the deadening or the diminishing of emotional bandwidth that takes place? Because I firmly believe that it's like with anything, and we use it a lot in dog training and desensitizing dogs to things that freak them out slowly. You do it calculated so that now it doesn't bother them anymore. But I think with our type of experiences, yours, tenfold over mine, but that, you experience something that's that traumatic, that's that heartbreaking, that's that emotionally devastating over and over and over. And it gets to the point where it stops kind of registering. And I'm curious, do you feel like that's an element of where you're at?
I spent, it's a great question. And some of your listeners might be like, you're full of crap. And a lot of your listeners can be like, oh, cool. So that is a real thing. I was dead to emotion for a long time by pills, by alcohol, by women, just you name it, anything to not think about it. I don't want to feel. And then I found faith in Christ, and my eyes were opened. I cried a lot. I still cry a lot. But it just kind of opened me up and kind of like, hey, like you're not just here. And I have a very strong faith. Do I mess up all the time? Oh my God, daily, like 5 times daily. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I'm cussing. I'm like, I should be cussing at you. You know better than that. But it's like, but you're human.
Yeah. Did you grow up with that?
No, I didn't. No, my girlfriend at the time, I was drinking a lot and being stupid, and it's called True North Ministries. It was out in Oklahoma, and it was a 3-day boot camp, no cell phone, no nothing. And I never prayed. And it was it's a program that was called Wild at Heart, originally started by John Eldridge out of Colorado. And I was like, I remember I got there. I was like, oh, cool. I'll just have a couple beers. It's fine. And then, there's no alcohol. I'm like, what do you mean there's no alcohol? This is a gathering of men. It's all men. There's no alcohol. Like, it's just very weird for me. I'd never done any Christian-based anything. And so I'm listening to this stuff, and I just and there's like these segments. There's like 3 or 4 segments a day, like hour long, and then you go pray. I've never prayed before. And then I just see guys, like they're talking about like a father wound. I'm like, I don't have any father wounds. I'm fine. And I just see dudes in like the audience like start crying. They're just getting taken out in a good way. And they're just coming to realization, and they're like, okay, this is it. And then like once you realize and you admit it, and then you can kind of move on from it. So I finally got hit like day 3. I got hit like I got hit so hard of just this peace, this feeling, and I'm not saying I'm a perfect Christian, because there's no such thing. I sin daily, and I try to get better myself all the time. But that has helped me reading the Bible, doing devotionals in the night, praying at night, and I remember after that, when I left that little Christian boot camp, it was like a 3-hour drive back to Tulsa, where I was living at the time, and I cried the whole way. I cried the whole freaking way. I tried to call my girlfriend. I would be able to get like 10 words, start crying, like, I got to call you back. I would just start crying. It's just like this peace, this feeling I've never felt before, like my body was being warmed. And I was like, okay, God, like, since we're like trying this prayer thing, like, okay, if you're real, like, I'm like literally testing him. If you're real, like, show me you're real. Like, show me you're real. And I remember I was driving by this car wash, and I was like, am I saved? Because I'm like, man, I've killed a lot of people. I've killed a lot of people. I've sinned. I've cheated. When I was younger, I sold like a Navy SEAL magazine, felt bad for that. I mean, just like I've done so many things, surely I can't be saved. And I was driving by this car wash, and they have those, like there's signs, like the red letters, it just kind of flashes by. I don't know what those signs are called, but it literally, I prayed. I'm like, if you're real, like, tell me I'm saved. Like, tell me I'm saved. I look up in this car wash and it says saved.
Oh shit.
It doesn't say save $15. It said saved with a D.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I just started crying again. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me right now? Like, I just, and since then, so many things, but that's why I'm composed, because I accept it for what it is. Like, I know you can't bring it back.
Yeah.
And I believe that, heaven is a better place than what we're dealing with here. And I do believe in good and evil. So that's why I would probably go to that my faith is the one. But I trust me, I've been through the torment. I've grieved a lot. I still have my moments.
Yeah.
When we do that dive trip for Louis, I know that when I'm there with Dom and Jamie and Louis' family, it's going to come up again, and I accept that, and that's okay. It's okay to have those feelings.
Yeah.
I used to think you can't have feelings because we're all these alpha males. We can't have feelings. You can't have feelings. That's bullshit. You're just what's gonna happen is you're gonna explode, and I've done that plenty of times, and I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
So,
well, to me, it's remarkable and really neat. Sitting across the desk to hear all the things you've been through and how you've handled it and where you're at now, and having kids and moving on and all that kind of stuff. I'd love to get, before we get into kind of what you're doing now and giving some advice on some of the security type issues that I've got written down here. Mm-hmm. Just if you could talk to the family component and from getting out and transitioning out of the military and losing that identity to a certain extent. I mean, we're always going to have always been a SEAL, but there's a huge disparity between being an active duty frogman and a used to be.
Absolutely.
And so can you walk us through that transition out?
Yeah. So when I was at my 17-year mark, that's when I got custody of my kids after extortion. And I obviously didn't want to get out, so I tried to find a position, what I could do. And it was just a blessing in disguise. And I they had those coordinator positions, and I did that for the last 3 years, where just training guys that want to be SEALs, SWIC, EOD, rescue swimmers. What's the other one? There's another one. But any of the special kind of things that the Navy has. So you just train them, kind of put them through the ringer, and it's ended up saving the Navy money when they get to BUD. So they're like, oh, I realized the water is cold. This sucks. I just costed, X amount of dollars.
Turns out I can't do 6 pull-ups.
I can't do, exactly. So it was cool to kind of give back, to try to feed into these guys as best I could, because I know when I was going in, I wish I had somebody feeding into me. I had like movies, right? So it was cool. And I was able to get my bachelor's in security management. So I took advantage of my time. I didn't just waste it. And then I started my company Contingent Group during that time. But the op tempo of going out every night and shooting dudes, and just that intensity, to going to raising 3 children by yourself and being domesticated, I would like to call it, and trying to be a father figure and try to lead the right way. It's a different kind of leading than the battlefield. battlefield is get your fucking ass in the door and kill that dude. We need to get in there right now. Where it's like, it's okay, honey. I understand you're stressed about school today. Like, what do we want to talk about? Like, tell me about your feelings. What are you feeling?
Yeah.
I had to read so many books because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
You know, it was. So I kind of like call it the war after war. Yeah. Like if I do write a book, it will be called the war after war because there's, I mean, as you know, it's like your guys are out doing what you've trained your whole life to do. And now I'm like taking care of kids. But I mean, like I look back at it now, it's like, oh my God, like I missed out on so many good years with these guys. Yeah. Like I love my children. They're amazing. Now I'm getting choked up.
Well,
so we're talking about my kids.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I know for me, like I've gone through, the full gamut. My kids are a little bit older now, but having been through, having them after I deployed, and I was an instructor. So, trying to balance and not treat them like they're fucking white shirt bud students.
Right.
And have these expectations that they're a 19-year-old man
tough.
that wants to be a SEAL. Like it still is hard for me.
It's very hard
to not just be like, hey, do this. And it's like, if you're not doing it like your fucking asshole is on fire, then you're wrong. and I'm going to go to level 12
exactly.
now, until you get there. And me trying to balance that and leverage, high expectations, good standards, being a role model, not just in talk, but mostly in action of saying, I'm going to show you how to do these things.
Right.
And I'm going to show you the principles that I'm going to live my life by so that you can hopefully try and want to emulate them, et cetera. All while balancing, like, I'm not going to take an ounce of fucking attitude and, you're going to have manners and respect for your elders. You're not going to be one of those assholes, that is on World Star Hip Hop because you're fighting with a fucking teacher. All of those things in conjunction with, again, the emotional interaction that you have, especially with girls,
right.
of not jumping their shit and understanding that they're hardwired different and their emotions are vastly different, especially at that age. And it's just, like for guys like us, that is a whirlwind of razor blades, that's just like, holy fucking Christ.
It's a daily challenge.
But so, I mean, I can't even imagine doing it by yourself with three of them.
Yeah, it was, whew. Like I just thinking about it, I remember calling my mom, like, Mom, so I need your help for a few weeks because I don't know what I'm doing here. Like learning out what diapers and it was a holy learning experience. But what's so cool about that is just like, going from operation to like learning to take care of 3 kids, it's like humans are awesome. Yeah, humans are freaking awesome.
Yeah, they're resilient. That's
like
for sure.
We can do some shit.
Yeah, I know it. Replace the M60 with an 8-month-old.
There you go.
What? So in terms of the transition from getting out to starting Contingent, can you walk us through that process of how that took place? So
probably about a buddy I was at Team 2 with, I think this is probably around my 18-year mark. He was like, hey, you want to do some side work? And I was like, heck yeah, like, because I just lost all this money from leaving the command. I don't have like a hazard duty pay and all that stuff. I was like, sure. So it was protection work, EP work for a billionaire family. And I just started doing it, and it was great pay. And I was like, well, I can see a business here. I got this experience. And then, so I just started, I got the insurance, started having guys subcontract at first. And then I was like, well, if we can do this, we can do background checks and we can do surveillance and we can do this. And like, what does kidnapping stuff look like? And then it just, okay, well, we can do vehicles too. So it just kind of like morphed into like just on protection to, okay, we can do it all now.
Yeah.
So it's definitely morphed. In the first 2 years we were in business, it was just me, just doing contracting for a friend. And then I finally started reaching out to try to get my own clients, and then finally got my own clients.
Yeah. Fuck, that's great. Do you have a 30-second elevator pitch for what the company does that you could share, that like, this is who we are and what we do? Yes.
So Contingent Group does pretty much anything that involves safety and security for an individual, family, an organization. It doesn't matter where they are overseas. We're worldwide. So we just kind of like pretty much design your security program. So if you have, for an example, you have an organization that works in, Mexico, for example, we will take care of the safety and security piece from when they leave wherever their home is. When they get down there, set up the drivers, set up the hotels, And we do our background checks. We have all our connections down there. We have our intel people down there, and we're gathering information. And we just keep them safe. Whatever they've got going on, it doesn't matter. A construction site, they're developing, or if they're just going down there for a vacation, whatever it is, we take care of it all. We do it, and it doesn't matter where.
And it can be from one guy doing an assessment to a full blown team.
It could be like obviously it starts with an assessment, and then now we're going into we do kidnapping and ransom things. Like actually, if somebody gets snatched, we'll go get them. Like we actually physically go get them.
No shit.
Oh yeah. So we will take care of some business.
That's fucking great shit.
Still got to have your fun, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. So for most of the people listening who aren't billionaires, one of the things I like to try to offer as a takeaway for the listener is just I've got kind of a list of things, security tip type things. Obviously, we don't have days to give away the playbook, but just kind of some bullet point style tips or things that people can kind of think about to be a little more self-aware about how they live their life. And I've just got a couple of them written down here. I'm curious to get your take of what you feel like providing. But one thing I'm curious of is, a guy, from you doing assessments and you see, again, whether they're rich, poor, a huge corporation, a family, whatever, is what are some of the biggest and or most common mistakes people make or take for granted in their day-to-day life?
Complacency. They think it won't happen to me. And I always tell this to clients, and if we go do like a travel safety or a teaching of something like that, if we're schooling people up, is there's not one victim that said, I'm going to be a victim.
Yeah.
There's not one out there. They're like, hey, today I'm going to go get shot in the head.
Yeah.
They didn't think it was going to happen, or else there would be no victims because crap, this is going to happen if I go do this.
Yeah.
So there's no like pre-trip, like if we're going to go do something, I'm going to go to Brazil. I'm just going down there for a day. I'm just going to get a taxi. Okay, well, do you know about the taxis? Is there a lot of kidnappings that happen from those taxi services? Like people just assume that it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's not okay. It's not America.
Yeah.
That's why if you leave America and you go to these other countries, I'm not saying all countries are bad, but some of them are pretty brutal. They have a different way of thinking.
Yeah.
They have different crime. Like Chicago, we know that you don't go to certain areas because murder is bad, right?
Yeah.
The same thing. They have the same thing, but theirs might be taxis. You never get in a taxi.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that with that, it's cultural too, that like we have zero contextual, even you can't even contextually wrap your mind around because it's so second nature. Well, you can get in an Uber and it's safe and it's fine and it's whatever. But we do this things that we sell on our website. They're called risk snapshots. They're just a 1-page PDF that you can. They're like $20, but it just gives you situational awareness before you go because we're trying to help everyone out because a lot of our prices are more designed for higher end clients. But we're reading them and we're putting them together. And there's certain countries, if you get in a car accident, you're going to jail. No shit.
Even if it's not your fault, you're going to jail. So okay, well, I need to know about that. Or there's so many things that if you do this, you're going to jail. Things that are perfectly fine here, like public display of affection.
Yeah.
People don't understand that. They're just like, oh, I'm good. I'm just going to go over there. But if you just literally. And you could do it yourself. It's called research. It's called Google or Bing or whatever the hell you want to use. And it's just they don't think about it. They're like, it's okay. I'll be fine. It won't happen.
Slap your old lady on the ass and you end up in prison.
And you end up in prison. And now you're getting it.
Now you're getting slapped on the ass.
Yes, exactly.
And it's not an American prison where you have Miranda rights and whatever else. It's like, hey, fuck.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Look at China.
Yeah.
I'll just take this with me. No, because they are sucking all your information out of your phone as soon as you walk through customs.
Yeah.
People just don't understand that, and they really need to.
Yeah. So I've got just a couple things written down in terms of kind of taking that same approach online. Any advice you can offer in terms of online things take for granted, or just kind of a synopsized?
I always recommend a VPN, keeping your stuff safe. Never use public Wi-Fi, hotel Wi-Fi. Always have your personal password protected, router. Yeah. My Intel guy would be better at explaining this stuff than I am, but You go in there, like, people are very savvy and they can get in your stuff, credit card information, personal information. They can get in your computer and just run your computer.
Yeah. Do you guys offer any type of training as it relates to that?
We do the whole gamut, like everything from, intelligence, from like your server stuff, all the way up to physical security. So we do it both.
Sweet.
Information security and physical security.
Okay, great. The next one I have is just house, like regular residential house. Things that people take for granted, or that that they generally fuck up or overlook, or is there any kind of things, I guess, from your experience that you find the most common, that when you walk into a house to do an assessment, like, people always fuck this up, they always have this wrong or whatever?
It's a lot of people, they don't lock their doors. They're like, I'm letting the dog out, or I'm bringing the dog in. I'll just, like, I have a fence, I'm just going to keep this door unlocked.
Yeah.
You got to lock your doors. And another thing, if you can see, if you just look up YouTube or on Instagram or, Facebook, is you need to be prepared for the worst. There's videos out there where there's 4 guys with guns kick down a door, because I can kick down a door. Guys can kick, like, that door can get kicked down, period. Okay, what do you do if you're in the shower? What do you do if your baby's in the other room? What if you're making dinner and that happens? Do you have a plan? Like, a lot of people don't have plans or protocols.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the person that is like, I need to have a plan, they don't bring their family into the plan.
Yeah.
And you need to have everybody involved. Like, okay, medical. What if somebody gets stabbed? How are we going to deal with that?
Yeah.
The communication. What if they put a jammer out there? How are you guys going to communicate? Yeah. Just certain things like that people don't think about, that can happen and does happen all the time.
Yeah.
And people don't really want to. It won't happen to me until it does, because it will.
and the thing, I've had instances happen to me. To me, it's no different than when you're overseas and a gunfight breaks out. It happens so fucking fast that, like, even if you have a plan, you have shit staged around the house, you have all these mitigation protocols put in place, like, it will still catch you with your fucking pants down every single fucking
exactly
time.
But better, like, having a plan is better than having no plan.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. It's just like a football team, right?
Yeah.
We got plays.
And so with travel, I have both in CONUS, here in the States and overseas. It sounds like downloading the PDF one pager if you're going anywhere is a good option. But
it's a great option, and that's just like a hey, here's your medical, natural disasters. Here's kind of like the trending crime, because we update it all the time. Every depending on country, how often we update it, depending on the news and stuff, and our other intel gathering sources that we have. And then we have our recommendations on there, like, don't do this, don't do this, like, travel in groups, don't be drinking this kind of drink because they do this. But we also go in depth. Like, if you want to jump on a phone call and really get into it, like, and really tell you, all the way up to, we'll send one of our guys with you, all the way to, we'll set up your driving services, all the way, because when we go, we bring our medical team with us. We have our medical, because a lot of these countries, medical sucks. Yeah. It's not like you're screwed. So it just depends on, obviously, finances and the area they're going to, but we do it all. We were down in Mexico, and I think it was last year, there was a big big earthquake in Mexico City. Just crazy. And one of our clients was landing, and I'm there with my colleague, and the ground's shaking, and because of the protocols that we had in place, we got him out of there, because the city turned to chaos. Yeah. So if we didn't have that, though, and we were able to get everybody off, we had like different ways to get people out of there, not by commercial aircraft, just in case. So the perfect example, and it worked. And the client's like, I'm glad we have you guys. Yeah. So
the contingency plan.
Exactly. You got to have them.
Yeah.
More than one.
Do you guys do any stateside traveling type stuff? And I guess, obviously, the overseas piece is much more complicated, and it depends on where you're going and things of that nature. But is there anything you can offer as just kind of a freebie for stateside travel that you see people fuck up or get complacent on?
It would go back to using like hotel Wi-Fi. Like, you need to have your own personal one. There's no, just especially for businesses that are, they have certain information and they're sending back and forth. If you're not providing your guys with what they call a MiFi or a personal hotspot, you're so wrong. I think that's the biggest piece. And just traveling around town at night with that, if you don't know that city or not foreign to that city, by yourself, and not having some kind of protective thing. Like we sell Our Contingent Group executive pin. I got one for you, by the way.
Oh, sweet.
It's just a pin, but it doesn't look like Transformers appendage. You know, some of those defensive pins, it's like, dude, that is so, like, this one actually gets you through TSA.
Yeah.
I've taken it to many different countries.
Yeah.
Never had a problem with it. And I always keep it in my pocket and I always have something. So it's like something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
So I mean, I recommend always like a firearm if you can, but obviously if certain states won't allow that, then you can't.
Yeah.
A blade, depending on, you know, local laws. And then you kind of go down the order, like, all right, pepper spray. Okay. A defensive pen. Okay. A personal alarm. Okay. Don't do this. You know what I mean?
Do you guys do, like if let's say I call you up and you don't know me from a fucking can of paint, which would probably be better. Is it, you know, I say, hey, I'm traveling to fucking pick a state. You know, I'm going to Michigan and I'm going to be in a shitty part of Detroit for a business meeting. Do you guys offer customized packages like that where you'll research like where they're going and plan a route? I mean, like, can people contract you guys to do shit like that too?
Absolutely. And we always work with local law enforcement or local vendors that we have vetted and have worked with in the past. Because obviously with our network from our backgrounds, we have a huge network globally. But you know, a lot of people, it's kind of funny you say that, is like people be like, hey, I need this. And then I'm like, okay, well, we need this information. What hotel you're staying? What are your dates? Where are you working? Like, and they're just kind of like fishing. So we have a validation process before we even give them any information.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, absolutely. Wherever you're going, it's like the SEAL teams, right? Yeah. We'll be anywhere within 24 hours.
Yeah.
We're the exact same.
Yeah.
I mean, we have clients that need something in like Nairobi. Like, we need this for this. How fast can you get it to us? Like, really fast.
Yeah.
So we have those connections made. So
that's fantastic. From an identity theft standpoint, is that something that you guys do much with?
We can take care of it. We haven't had a need for it. I think we maybe had one time where it was being utilized, but we have our connections to deal with that. Yes.
So I mean, it sounds like in terms of all things security related, I mean, you're a one-stop fucking shop.
We are one-stop, and that's what I was always my vision is like I want to be like Target, but we're not gonna our quality.
Yeah.
We will always take quality and get rid of quantity, but it's just we're growing.
Yeah.
By bringing more guys on that are qualified to do this. So
that's fucking great. So if you're listening, I mean, you know, he's got a stable of fucking pipe hitters working for him that do online stuff, physical security, you know, security details, fucking route planning for travel, overseas shit, hostage rescue, you know, background checks, identity theft. You know, I would imagine even something as simple as like if somebody wants help disappearing, you know,
we can do that too.
You know, it's almost of movie proportion.
One of our things that you follow us on Instagram is that we give free tips.
Yeah.
I mean, we're always trying to like, how can we keep people safe? Like, hey, did you know you could do this medical security wise? So our page is great to follow just because it gives you free information. I mean, why would you not want it?
Yeah. No, there's great tips.
And yes, we do push products sometimes.
Yeah. You have to. That's the way the world works. Same here, which is what I'm about to do, actually. But no.
Yes.
So you know that's you know the gist of the interview here. I really cannot thank you enough for sharing your story. I mean, I
appreciate being on. Thank you.
You know, I didn't know you real well before we sat down and hearing your story and the things you've been through and knowing some of the same guys that we've known and whatever. It's just a real honor to have you.
It's a small world, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the invitation.
It's truly my pleasure, and it will be the guest pleasure, or they can fucking choke themselves. I got to throw that in. But is there anything you want to? Yeah, is there anything you want to add before we wrap it up here?
No, I just hope everyone enjoys this and just make right choices. I guess that'd be the big thing. It's like my biggest mistake, right? Don't do wrong things.
Yeah. If you want any of those security packages, excuse me, if you want to enlist Eddie or Contingent Group for any of their services, which I've just outlined, they can go to just contingentgroup.com.
Contingentgroup.com, or they can, we're trying to get better at like messaging through Instagram, but the best thing to do is info@contingentgroup.com.
Okay.
Send an email, and you can find that through the website.
And the handle on Instagram, is that your primary social media platform?
For Contingent Group, it's just @Contingent Group.
Okay, all one word.
All one word.
Okay. So there's where you can find them. Obviously, if you want the best, hire the best. And, in terms of resumes, credentials, and the crew that he has working for him, it doesn't get any better than that. So you do yourself a favor and be prepared in terms of any of the types of services that they bring. Real quick before we wrap up, I want to let everybody know I get a lot of questions, dog-related questions. I've done a number of dog podcasts where I open it up and people send hundreds, if not thousands of questions. And frankly, a lot of them end up with kind of a similar answer. And it's not me being a pushy prick trying to plug my own product in essence. It's that the whole reason I started the online training 2.5 years ago is from all of these questions of saying, it'd just be easier to demonstrate it. Let me do a video on it. And I spend, 10 or 15 minutes talking about it, 10 or 15 minutes demonstrating it with different dogs, different stages. But the Team Dog .pet experience has morphed into really a community feel that I encourage you guys to check out. I mean, the amount of people listening to the podcast, it never fails. I still get question after question after question of people asking me things that are A, really basic, which is fine, but B, they're fucking covered on the Team Dog online site. And no different that I don't go to the chiropractor expecting a goddamn free adjustment. I do get a little bit weary of being asked over and over and over by people I've never met, all of these dog training questions that I provide on my online training, and it's $99 for a fucking year of unlimited access. So
I have it. It's worth it.
Yeah, so
and I need it.
Just fucking sign up for it. I'm happy to help you guys out, but realize that this is what I do for a living. Number two is that we've got a host of new products coming out here in 2019. We already have the CBD oil. I want to remind people that it is now available in the human flavors, in both the full spectrum with key lime and the isolate, which is lemon lime. And then there's still 200 milligram bottles of the chicken flavor left for pets. But the nice thing is with the new 500 flavors of lemon lime and key lime, you can take them yourself or you can give them to their pets, put it on their food. I take the shit every day. I've seen it do wonders in a number of dogs. We've gotten a ton of good feedback from a shitload of clients that have bought the Tricos CBD oil, and it's done wonders. That's tricosupplements.com, all one word. So be on the lookout for new products, collar, leash, crate, food, clickers, pouches, all sorts of shit coming down the pipeline here over the next few months with the Tricos brand and design behind it. And I'm looking forward to offering that for you guys. But again, I want to thank Eddie Penney for showing up and sharing his amazing patriotic story. I, on behalf of a grateful nation, thank you for your service, because
you as well, my
fucking
friend.
pipe hitters like you are the reason our country exists. And so thank you for everything. Everybody listening, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. And as always, until next time, this is Mic Drop.